Chapter 714. Anshin shook her head in disbelief. No way. How could this be? How could he do this? The man with the crew cut glanced at the two men behind him. The two of them understood and took out a pair of handcuffs. They stepped forward to take Anshin away. The two female bodyguards did their duty. Even in such a situation, they did not forget their job and blocked in front of the men. One of the female bodyguards shouted, "Even if you want our young miss to assist in the investigation, you have to treat her politely. Do you want to forcefully handcuff her and take her away? Our young miss is not a criminal. It's already good enough that we didn't kill the daughter of a traitor on the spot. Do you want us to cry and beg her to go?" One of the men was also angry and directly reached out to pull the female bodyguard away. The female bodyguard angrily resisted and wanted to grab the man's arm. However, how could the special forces of the Department of Defense be so easy to deal with? After glancing at her with disdain, he raised his hand and shook it. It was as if a burst of strength had suddenly erupted, pushing the female bodyguard onto the sofa. "We don't want to waste time. Miss, and come with us." The man with the crew cut frowned and ordered his subordinates to take back the handcuffs. In fact, there was no need for handcuffs to bring such a weak woman back. The female bodyguard wanted to step forward to stop them, but she was stopped by Anshin. Anshin slowly stood up. Her lips were pale, and tears welled up in her beautiful eyes. Although she had already expected such a result, she didn't expect that she wouldn't even have a chance to reverse it. That man had actually abandoned her. He had actually abandoned her to run away. "I'll go with you, but I want to call my lover first." That's not too much, right? Anshin sorted out her emotions and said in a neither humble nor arrogant manner, "Of course, we are working for the country, not bandits." The man with the crew cut agreed. Anshin thanked him, then took out her phone and dialed a number. After the call connected, Yang Cheng's voice came through, but it was very soft, just a hello. The corner of Anshin's mouth curled up into a trace of bitterness and sweetness. "Hubby, you should have gone home to rest, right? Sorry, something suddenly happened, so I woke you up." "Yes, what is it?" Yang Cheng asked. Biting her lips, Anshin smiled miserably. "A good friend of mine abroad suddenly asked me to attend her wedding, so I'm in a hurry to leave the country. Therefore, it might not be convenient for us to contact each other for a period of time. I just wanted to let you know. Make an international call when you're going abroad. What's so inconvenient about that?" Yang Cheng said lightly. Anshin finally couldn't hold back her tears, but she immediately covered her mouth to prevent her voice from passing through the phone. She tried her best to restrain her tears and said with a forced smile, "The international roaming service has just ended, and I'm too lazy to do it. Just treat it as a holiday for me. That's it. I have to catch a flight. Bye, honey." Anexion hung up the phone and let out a long sigh. She wiped the tears off her face and was about to leave with the crew cut man. Unexpectedly, the moment she raised her head, she saw a man holding a phone, pretending to answer a call. He was standing diagonally behind the crew cut men. Yang Cheng had been standing silently not far away. As long as he was willing, the people present would not be able to detect his existence. They only wanted to hear what was going on, so they only appeared at this moment. "You ignorant woman, I usually dote on you for nothing. The man didn't say goodbye to you, so how can you say goodbye and hang up the phone? Don't you know that I'll be worried like this?" Yang Cheng said into the phone. Anshin opened her small mouth, but she couldn't say a single word. Joy, surprise, shyness, fear. The mixed emotions caused the woman's heart to beat wildly. She stood on the spot as if she had lost her soul. The four of them turned around in astonishment. The four of them were puzzled. There was actually someone approaching them, but they didn't sense it at all. However, it was clear that Yang Cheng's appearance of being affectionate with the woman he wanted to capture at this time made them feel very disgusted. "You miss Anshin's lover? This has nothing to do with you. Go do what you need to do." The man with the crew cut coldly snorted and signaled his subordinates to capture him. However, just as the white-clothed man was about to make a move, Yang Cheng's figure appeared in front of Anshin. However, Yang Cheng, who was half a head shorter than the four of them, seemed a little mediocre and powerless. "Since I'm here, then there's nothing for you guys to do. Leave this place." Yang Cheng's expression wasn't good, and his tone was stiff and oppressive. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Although we are public servants, we still have a limit to our patience. The man with the crew cut's face darkened as he signaled his subordinates to use force. The white-clothed man had long since become impatient. A ruthless look flashed across his eyes. A steel claw-like palm was about to grab Yang Cheng's shoulder, intending to pull him away. Yang Cheng didn't even wait for him to extend his hand before he kicked the man's knee. Crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking caused the originally quiet bar to be dyed with a layer of shadow. The white-clothed man didn't even know how he was kicked. That lightning-quick kick only made him feel endless pain after he heard the sound. Yang Cheng indifferently glanced at the man. I'll break one of your legs. Remember, as a lackey, you should act like one. Anshin came back to her senses. Although she didn't know why Yang Cheng suddenly appeared in the bar, she knew that this matter was no longer something she could cover up, nor was it something she could control. She could feel her lover's anger, so she didn't dare to interfere with what Yang Cheng was doing. She could only look at her man from behind with her beautiful eyes. When the two of them first met, it was also in the same bar. It was also him who protected her like this. Suddenly, it was just like back then. Motherf asterisk her. The crew-cut man was furious. He raised the Desert Eagle in his hand and aimed it at Yang Cheng's head. Kid, you have some tricks up your sleeve. That's why I seriously suspect that you're in Zaihuan's partner. You're also arrested. If this was in Beijing, there definitely wouldn't be a chance for Yang Cheng to be targeted by the government. This was because Sky Dragon and Yi Zi, the two spies, would have already secretly eliminated these hidden dangers. But now, it was obvious that Yellow Flame Iron Brigade didn't send anyone to watch Yang Cheng. Perhaps Kai Yunqing was already relieved of his son-in-law, or perhaps he really didn't have enough manpower. But to Yang Cheng, it didn't matter. Someone spying on him was just to resolve the conflict in the dark. It didn't mean that the spies could stop him when the conflict arose. Just like now, Yang Cheng didn't know when he grabbed the Desert Eagle from the crew-cut man's hand. The crew-cut man only felt an irresistible force that pulled the gun from his hand. He couldn't even react. When they looked at Yang Cheng again, even a man in white who was groaning in pain on the ground was dumbfounded. Yang Cheng was holding the Desert Eagle and pointing it at his own temple. Was he crazy? Suicide? Hubby, put down. Although an Xian knew that Yang Cheng was powerful, she was still worried for him. She shrieked from behind, her heart thumping so hard that it was in her throat. Yang Cheng didn't give them any time to think. He pulled the trigger, and a bullet was fired. Bang! The strong recoil of the Desert Eagle didn't make Yang Cheng's hand tremble at all. After the smell of gunpowder faded, a silver-black metal lump fell to the floor and rolled in a circle. The crew-cut man and the others' faces were ashen. That was a bullet that was fired. It was squeezed into a shriveled metal ball by some kind of terrifying force. On the other hand, Yang Cheng leisurely put down the Desert Eagle. His temple, which was shot by the bullet, wasn't damaged at all. Yang Cheng casually threw the Desert Eagle on the ground. You still want to catch me? The four men were speechless. Although they had seen some experts in the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade, because of their work, they had never seen someone who could squash a bullet with the strength of his body. Looks like you have no more tricks up your sleeves. Get lost then, Yang Cheng said. The crew-cut man hurriedly retreated. Yes, we'll leave now. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. The crew-cut man didn't care about anything else. Yang Cheng frowned. I told you to get lost, not to leave. The man on the ground had a broken leg. The other three were also in a difficult position. After all, they still had some pride. How could they leave the bar in front of so many people? Yang Cheng sighed. He didn't want to waste time talking. He raised his leg and kicked 3 times. Bang, bang, bang. 3 muffled sounds. The crew-cut man was hit in the chest and sent flying. The 3 of them hit the wall more than 10 meters away. At least 7 or 8 ribs were broken on the spot. They spat out blood and fainted on the spot. The man with the broken leg on the ground gulped. He didn't dare to disobey. He started rolling towards the door with tears and snot in his eyes. The sudden turn of events stunned the 2 female bodyguards beside Anshin. They had never seen Yang Chung before. When Anshin went to work, she didn't bring bodyguards with her. She only brought them along when she went out to play. Yang Chung turned around and said in a low voice, "Don't you have anything to say?" Anshin didn't dare to look at Yang Cheng's burning eyes. She mumbled, I didn't mean to make you angry." Yang Chung suppressed his anger and said, "If I didn't happen to be here today, were you planning to lie to me like this and then be taken away by that group of idiots?" Anshin gritted her teeth but refused to speak. "Do you think you'll be fine if you don't say anything?" "Fine. Let's see if you say anything." Yang Chung suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Anshin by the waist. He dragged her to the sofa in the corner and sat down. Then he placed Anshin's soft body on his lap. What are you going to do to our family's young miss?" The two female bodyguards exclaimed and came forward to stop him. However, before the two girls could get close, an invisible force bounced them far away. With Yang Cheng's current cultivation, he could freely release and retract his true energy, so he didn't hurt them. The two of them were ordinary bodyguards who had practiced martial arts. They were immediately stunned by this miraculous method. Because of the gunshot just now, not a single person could be seen in the bar. No one dared to approach from the outside either. Only Yang Chung and the other three were left. After Yang Chung unceremoniously pressed Anshin down, Anshin whimpered and could only lie on Yang Cheng's thigh, unable to move. One of Yang Cheng's hands then lifted up Anshin's pink skirt, revealing a pair of pink underwear. Anshin only felt a chill on her, but this bad man had actually taken off her bra to her knees in this place. Because of her shyness and nervousness, the too white and tender round flesh was actually trembling, and the enchanting pink scenery in the middle already had some fresh dewdrops. If it was in the past, this kind of gluttonous beauty would definitely make Yang Chung forget everything and pounce on her. It didn't matter if this was a bar or anywhere else. The body in front of him that was like a work of art would always let him taste the sweetness of the world. But now, Yang Cheng's gaze fell on this lively and fragrant part. Without the slightest desire, he raised his hand high up and slammed it down heavily. With a crisp sound, a glaring red handprint appeared on his buttocks. And at the same time that Anshin's, but hurt, because of the grievance, her heart was also stung. The tears that she had just held back flowed down like a broken dam. She screamed and cried out loud. The two female bodyguards were dumbfounded, and their faces also turned red. Wasn't this man here to save their young miss? How could he do such a lewd act without any regard for the occasion? Even if he was the young Mrs. Lover, if the two of them wanted to be intimate, he shouldn't be so cruel as to hit her. Chapter 7:15. However, Yang Chung did not have the slightest bit of pity, as if he thought that Anshin's crying was not painful enough. He continuously slapped her 3 times, and all of them landed solidly on the 2 pieces of white tofu-like soft flesh. Anshin's crying finally broke out, and the heart-wrenching tears gushed out. She even began to cry and curse. "Yang Chung, you big bad guy. You bastard. I hate you, I hate you." The usually well-behaved woman scolded him like this, but Yang Cheng's expression did not change. Instead, he hugged Anshin's entire body and hugged her in his arms. Using one hand, he domineeringly pinched Anshin's chin, opened that pink sandalwood mouth, and then kissed her heavily. Anshin was just crying and cursing, but in the blink of an eye, she was immediately kissed by the man to the point that her breathing stagnated. Her bright eyes opened wide, and it was unknown whether she was crying or whispering. Both of them had drunk a lot of wine, and between their tongues, the woman's elegant fragrance was mixed with the stimulation of alcohol. The tip of Yang Cheng's tongue touched Anshin's pearly white teeth. Originally, Anshin was not willing to let this bad guy who spanked her take advantage of her, but their faces were almost stuck together, and that pair of eyes filled with love made her instantly understand everything. He wanted her to cry out and vent all her grievances, so he hit her. "I'm in pain, but he's in even more pain than I am." Warm tears flowed down, wetting their cheeks that were stuck together. The tip of Yang Cheng's tongue finally entered Anshin's mouth. The two of them were already intimately intimate, and usually in the office, As long as her lover wanted it, she would obediently offer her fragrant lips, allowing him to taste it. As for the sex in the day, she had also done a lot. Relatively speaking, kissing was often just an appetizer. Yang Chung had never been too serious about it. Most of the time, he would just go straight to the point. Anshin would also not care about this kind of ridiculous behavior, because she knew that in her lover's heart, she was definitely not the most beloved, nor was she a legitimate wife. She could only get the love she wanted by giving more. Yang Chung wouldn't spend too much effort on kissing her. Instead, he needed her youthful and beautiful body to enjoy. Although she silently accepted it in her heart, she still felt a little sorry for herself. But now, Yang Cheng's kiss seemed to be delicate and tender. This was a kind of thoughtfulness that he had never shown before. It made Anshin suddenly realize that everything in the past was a misunderstanding. The tip of his tongue licked around her mouth, sucking in the little bit of fragrant saliva. Anshin's gaze was a little unfocused, not because she was weak, but because she was powerless. Although she was usually flirtatious, in the end, she had only done it with Yang Chung. She didn't know that there were so many different kinds of kissing. Unknowingly, a little fragrant tongue had already been entangled, unable to escape. The tender little thing was softly played by Yang Chung, causing Anshin to let out baby-like sounds. This was a union with the flesh, and the feeling of her skin and his touch were completely different. It was as if there was a trace of numbness rising from her heart, and her eyes were even more shy, as if they were about to overflow with water. But she refused to close her eyes, and instead looked into his eyes. This kind of strange and familiar feeling was brought to her by him, the man she deeply loved. An Xion's jet black and bright eyes stared at Yang Chun from a very close distance. Yang Chun didn't shift his gaze away at all. Their gazes intersected, and they kissed each other's lips passionately. That's right, he was telling her that he loved her, not less than she loved him. Anshin really hoped that she would melt into the body of the man in front of her, and also hoped that this kiss would never stop. But Yang Chung had strong control and pulled her back to reality. Their lips slowly parted, and a silver transparent thread separated from each other's mouth, making this wet kiss seem particularly enchanting. Yang Chung gently stroked Anshin's back with one hand, and stroked her still wet face with the other, and said in a soft voice, "Cried out, you feel better." Anshin turned her face and rubbed her face against Yang Cheng's hand, and said with a pout, "You're so cruel. Hitting me once already hurts, and you still want to hit me 4 more times. I'm also doing this for your own good." Yang Chung smiled helplessly. "After the first time, I actually couldn't bear to hit you again, but after thinking about it, I still had to continue." Anshin blinked her big eyes and asked curiously, "Why?" "Because I hit half of your butt. If this side swells and the other side doesn't, wouldn't that be incongruous and unsightly? So I wanted to hit the other side again. In the end, after hitting the second side, I felt that I had used too much strength. So, in order to be even, I hit your original side again, but after hitting it, I still used too much strength, so I gave it a 4th time. Hee, baby Anshin, don't worry. Your butt definitely won't be big on one side and small on the other." Yang Chung had a serious expression, but one of his hands slowly slid down to touch that butt egg. At the same time, he gently rubbed it and pinched it a few times. Anshin was embarrassed and angry at the same time. This kind of nonsense could be said to be so serious, but she also wanted to laugh, so she flirtatiously rolled her eyes. "All right, stop touching. Let me put on my pants. They're all watching." Anshin was naturally talking about the 2 female bodyguards who were already dumbfounded. They couldn't understand why they had just taken off their pants and spanked their buttocks, and now they were kissing so sweetly for so long. Yang Chung chuckled and reluctantly rubbed against the woman a few more times before pulling up the peach-colored underwear. "Promise me, you can't lie to me again in the future. Otherwise, I'll really hit your butt until it swells up," Yang Chung said as he patted the woman's face. Anshin couldn't avoid it in time. She took away Yang Cheng's hand and pouted. "Hubby, you're so annoying. Touch me there. Touch my face again. Isn't it all the flesh on your body? And it's not dirty either," Yang Chung said indifferently. Anshin was about to faint. It was one thing for the 2 of them to be together, But this scene was also seen by her personal female bodyguards. How was she going to face them in the future? Sure enough, when the two female bodyguards reacted, they almost burst out laughing. Tell me what happened. Yang Chung cut to the chase and asked seriously. The bashful expression on Anshin's pretty face also disappeared, revealing a hint of sadness. She faintly sighed. Actually, without waiting for Anshin to say anything, the phone on the female bodyguard's body rang. The female bodyguard looked at Yang Chung apologetically, then picked up the phone and asked the person on the other side what was going on. Before long, the female bodyguard's face flushed with anger. After hanging up the phone, she said to an accent, "Miss, something has happened at home. The second master and a few relatives are clamoring for a share of the family's assets." Anshin's dimples turned deathly white, and she softly fell into Yang Cheng's embrace, as if she had been struck by lightning. In the eastern district of Zhonghai, under an arched bridge over a river, the unclean river water slowly flowed in the concrete river. Under the night sky, it was like black ink reflecting specks of starlight. The weather at the end of May in the south was no longer cool, even at night. There were a lot of mosquitoes in this area with abundant water sources. But even so, under the bridge was still a favorite place for many homeless people to sleep. The mosquito bites no longer mattered, as long as it wasn't too hot at night. Moreover, under the bridge could block the occasional rain from the south. It happened to be in the wee hours of the morning. Under the bridge, four homeless men in ragged clothes and dirty hair who begged for a living were laughing and talking with accent from all over the world, discussing topics that men would never get tired of no matter what. To them, life was aimless. Society had already abandoned them, and they did not have any yearning for anything. The only enjoyment they had was freedom. The sky was their blanket, and the earth was their seat. "Cripple, don't you know how to read? Why did you come out to beg like us brothers?" A bearded man, leaning on the bridge, asked. Cripple was a relatively skinny young beggar. No one knew his name, but because of his limp leg, he was called Cripple. Cripple was lying on a hard rock, looking at the night sky. When he heard the question, he laughed in his Central Huaxia accent. "Believe it or not, I passed the college entrance examination back then. What I applied for was a famous university. But, damn it, just because he was 1 point short, he didn't get anything. My dad died in a car accident, and my mom knew I didn't get in, so she drank pesticide and left with me. My leg was broken when I got into a car accident with my dad. It doesn't matter if I don't have money. I'm a cripple. If I don't beg, what else can I do?" "Oh my God, you're a top student." A skinny, dark-skinned, homeless man laughed. Cripple was quite proud of himself. "Of course, let me tell you, it's because I was born in a bad place. If I was in Zhonghai or Yanjing with my score, I could get a scholarship from a prestigious university. Our place is a mountain village, far away from the emperor. There are only a few places, and half of them are taken by the sons of officials. If I had known that studying for 10 years would only make me a beggar, I might as well have kept my tuition to hunt for wild dog meat with my dad. Come on, that's just wishful thinking. If you reincarnate again, you'll still have to think about taking the college entrance examination." Another homeless man snorted disdainfully. This was the first time the four of them met. They stayed under the bridge and grumbled. When they woke up the next morning, they would go their separate ways and continue begging. Therefore, they didn't argue and stop talking. At this moment, the bearded homeless man clicked his tongue. "Damn it, I haven't touched a woman for 2 to 3 months. Now the price of a lady is so damn expensive. I saved up for a month to get one last time. Now I'm really suffocating. Old Blackbeard. Now that you mention it, I want it too. Even if it's an ugly one, sigh." The skinny homeless man pandered. The four of them laughed wickedly, but they also knew that they didn't have the capital to touch even the women in the shampoo room. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly fell from the bridge. With the faint glow of the street lights on the bridge, the four of them were surprised to find that it was a good-looking foreign girl. Looking at the tall woman's sexy figure wrapped in black tights, the four of them swallowed their saliva and were puzzled at the same time. Could it be that the heavens had shown mercy and suddenly dropped a woman for them to quench their thirst, and an imported one at that? Finally found a suitable one. Adeline had a teasing look in her eyes. She asked in Mandarin, "Do you want a woman?" The four of them were stunned. In the end, Cripple, who was more quick-witted, gulped and said, "Girl, are you really willing?" Adeline immediately understood that they misunderstood. She frowned and said, "Of course not me, but I have some good ones on hand." After saying that, Adeline's figure flashed, and she jumped onto the bridge. After a few seconds, when she landed under the bridge, she was carrying a middle-aged woman wrapped in a blanket. Chapter 716. After leaving the city of Zhonghai, the traffic on the highway was sparse. Inside the bright red Porsche Cayenne that Anshin usually used, two female bodyguards sat in the front and were responsible for driving. Yang Chung held Anshin's hand and sat in the back so that Anshin's head could lean on his shoulder. The woman seemed to be too tired. After saying what she wanted to say, she became drowsy and had no intention to continue talking. She only wanted to lean on the man. Yang Cheng's expression wasn't good. It wasn't that bad, but there was a hint of disgust between his brows. Anshin almost choked with sobs as she recounted what happened in the Yin family. Yang Cheng's first thought was, if he knew this would happen, he would have fed the idiot in Zaihuan, along with the father and son of the Liu family, to the sharks. It wasn't a small matter, but in Yang Cheng's eyes, it wasn't a big deal. The cause was a dispute that had been the focus of the world for the past 2 months. Huaxia was fighting with Country F over the ownership of an island in the South China Sea. No matter how he looked at it, Country F was looking for trouble, relying on the support of the UA military's long-distance firepower to intimidate others. Although the higher-ups of Huaxia were scolded by countless people for being incompetent, they insisted on not opening fire with real swords and guns. However, it made sense. If they did whatever the people said, they wouldn't be called leaders. However, they didn't let Country F gain any advantage. They kept using their navy to defend the island and just wasted their time. To be honest, Yang Chung could understand the situation. Huaxia's real opponent wasn't Country F, but the UA behind it. Country F was only a pitiful chess piece. Even though America's special organization, Blue Storm, was not considered powerful, the world still belonged to more than 6 billion people. As social creatures, in the human world, what truly dominated the world was not some super expert, nor was it some super mutant organization. It was still the comprehensive competitiveness of each country, technology, economy, culture. These were the fundamentals of human society. First could only kill, not create. If Huaxia really went to war with Country F, the loss of large amounts of funds and personnel would only make the UA military laugh from ear to ear. They were doing business without capital, so no matter what the result was, it wasn't rational for Huaxia to take the risk. Of course, Huaxia's government wasn't stupid. They blocked all kinds of import and export trade from Country F and stopped the supply of daily necessities, which made Country F citizens angry. At this point, the military was still confronting Country F's fleet at sea. Perhaps some hot-blooded soldiers were frustrated, but military orders had to be obeyed. They couldn't do anything. Yang Chun had seen countless wars, so he knew clearly how tragic it would be if a war really broke out. Therefore, he only took a look at the provocative messages on the internet. In his heart, he still hoped to subdue the enemy without a fight. After all, the soldiers were made of flesh and blood. Why would they go against guns and cannons? But at the end of last month, Zaihuan, as the head of the Yin family, took advantage of the fact that the Yin family had a lot of ports and cargo ships in the southern province of Huaxia to quietly transport all kinds of production and chemical materials that were originally prohibited from being sold to Country F. But at the end of last month, Zaihuan, as the head of the Yin family, used the Yin family's southern province of Huaxia to quietly transport all kinds of production and chemical materials that were originally prohibited from being sold to Country F. These raw materials could help Country F alleviate its tight living conditions and produce more weapons for Country F. If Country F's internal conflict could be alleviated, it meant that the UA could provide support for a longer period of time. Huaxia, on the other hand, would continue to heat up public opinion, which was likely to cause all kinds of hidden dangers to erupt. Based on common sense, at such a critical moment, and Zaihuan, an ordinary businessman, would not be able to hide from customs and transport goods to Country F. However, the UA FBI secretly found him. The FBI's spy was responsible for handling the details, helping Zaihuan avoid the eyes and ears of the Huaxia government, and giving Zaihuan double the profits. Under such a huge temptation, Zaihuan was indeed tempted. It wasn't because he completely trusted the FBI, but because Zaihuan knew that he had the Rothschild family's shares behind him. And because of the Rothschild family's emblem, his cargo ship could apply for exemption from customs inspection. This was the huge privilege of this ancient and legendary family worldwide. But he didn't know that the FBI also secretly investigated this point, which was why they chose him as the import channel. Because the Rothschild family didn't own any country, as long as it could bring in huge profits and didn't cause any substantial harm to the family, they wouldn't reject it. Therefore, even if they knew that Zaihuan's actions were using the family's privilege, the Rothschild family wouldn't oppose it. Because a large portion of the profits would be handed over, and if something went wrong, as long as they pushed the blame onto Zaihuan, the Huaxia government wouldn't dare to do anything to the Rothschild family. But there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall. After Zaihuan hid it from his family for half a month, the Department of National Defense and the Security Bureau finally found some clues. The Department of National Defense's special forces gradually locked onto Zaihuan, and the cargo ship was stopped. The Rothschild family saw that the situation was exposed, and they earned a lot of money, so they immediately retreated and pushed all the blame onto Zaihuan. They only secretly expressed to the Huaxia government that they wouldn't help Zaihuan just because of their business relationship. Seeing that Zaihuan had nowhere to go and was about to be officially arrested, the U.S. didn't abandon him. They arranged for the FBI agents to smuggle Zaihuan out of the country, leaving the Department of National Defense empty-handed. Although this seemed a bit strenuous and unrewarding, it was a precious style of buying a horse's bones with 1,000 gold. The Americans weren't stupid. If they wanted people to be willing to work for them in future wars, they had to treat every pawn they used with respect. Otherwise, who would dare to work for you? Therefore, they were willing to save Zaihuan, even if he had lost his value. Because this was a war between ordinary people, there was no need for special forces like the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade to do anything. Otherwise, Zaihuan wouldn't have been able to escape. After Anshin finished speaking, he closed his eyes for a long time on Yang Cheng's shoulder before continuing. A few days ago, he felt that he was going to be arrested, so he asked me to beg you to think of a way to help him. But how could I say it? If it wasn't for you, we would have been eaten by the Liu family long ago. He didn't repent and even committed treason. But you couldn't let go of him because he's your biological father after all. That's why you're in so much pain. That's why you drink so much at night and come to work late in the day. Yang Cheng let out a long sigh. He was too careless and didn't care enough for the women around him. Anshin nodded with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. I know it's wrong to hide it from you, but Yulei International happened too. You don't belong to me alone. I can't ask you to leave Sister Lin and the others behind just because that person is in trouble and help me deal with these things. Because of Lu Min, I already feel sorry for Auntie and General Lin. This time, the other party is the Department of National Defense and the FBI. I really don't dare to say it. Yang Cheng stroked Anshin's hair. This woman was the most unqualified mistress. It was as if she was always worried that he would abandon her. She was always overcautious and always wanted to cater to him, but she was the one who suffered. It's okay. I'll help you solve the problem bit by bit. Just follow me obediently. Yang Cheng comforted her and took out his phone. After thinking carefully, he dialed a number. After the call was picked up, a man's hearty laughter could be heard. My dear friend, why would your Majesty Pluto call me at this time? Your wife fought another beautiful business war that left the world speechless. Shouldn't the husband and wife be celebrating? Edward, why didn't you tell me about the family? Yang Cheng didn't bother with pleasantries and went straight to the point. Even if the other members of the Rothschild family didn't know him, Yang Cheng was still a little annoyed that his friend of many years, a core member of the family, didn't inform him. It was impossible that Edward didn't know. Edward smiled bitterly on the other end. You're too direct. I wanted to get away with it. Yang Chun, I hope you can understand. Although I'm your friend, I'm also one of the successors of the clan. I have to think for our clan. Just because in Zaihuan's business can make money? Yang Chung frowned. That's right. Edward admitted straightforwardly. To us, the Rothschild family, country, race, and territory are all illusory. The reason why we're able to stand tall is because of the fortress that we built with money. As long as we can make huge profits, we're willing to do anything to go to hell. Although in Zaihuan's actions will put Huaxia in an awkward position, this isn't something we need to consider. We only care about how much profit he can make for us. As for his ending, it depends on his own fate. If I told you beforehand, you would definitely stop him. That would be equivalent to bringing a loss to our family. As a member of the Rothschild family, I can't do that. I hope you can understand. At the same time, as a friend, I want to apologize to you. Chapter 717. Yang Chun sneered when he heard that. Edward, don't you think about it? If I get a headache, no matter how much money the Rothschild clan has, it will only become the funerary objects for your clan members. Edward laughed heartily. You won't do that. If you really wanted to slaughter my family, because of this, I wouldn't have chosen to get to know you. Your subordinates wouldn't have approved of you either. And Zaihuan's accident was ultimately his choice, and he underestimated his own ability. The law of the jungle, you understand it better than anyone else. You think you'll be fine just because you flatter me? Then what do you want as a friend, a personal relationship? I could try my best to make up for it, Edward said helplessly. Yang Chun didn't respond to her at all. He hung up the phone. Make up for it. I don't lack money. What can you make up for it? Yang Chun thought. But Yang Chun also knew that Edward was right. If it wasn't for Zaihuan's greed, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Even if he swallowed the Liu family and made the family the second largest family in Zhonghai, he still wouldn't give up. Yang Chun laughed in disdain. Anshin on the side had a sad expression. I realized it too late. When I found out about it, no less than 100 ships of prohibited goods had already been shipped to the F country. He also said that as long as you are here, there's nothing to worry about. But if something really happens, he doesn't dare to face you at all. He only asked me to tell you, hoping that you can help him. Humph, he's not stupid. If he really dares to come in front of me, I won't care about your face. I'll just kill him and save myself the trouble. Yang Cheng's eyes flashed a trace of fierceness. Anshin didn't know what to say. She asked anxiously, Then what do we do now? Don't your relatives want you to go back and share the family property with them? Then go back first, Yang Cheng said indifferently. Anshin's gaze was hesitant and a little apprehensive, but at this time, as a girl, she didn't have much of an opinion, so she could only nod obediently. Since the family annexed the Liu family, their strength had skyrocketed, and their residence had been changed to a beautiful mansion in the suburbs. The geographical location was carefully surveyed by a feng shui master to accumulate wealth. When the car arrived at the family's gate, there were already more than 10 luxury cars parked in front of the gate. Relatively speaking, Anshin's Porsche Cayenne was just an ordinary branded car worth 2 million yuan. Your relatives are all quite rich, Yang Chun sneered as he glanced around. Anshin slightly furrowed her brows. Our family isn't completely led by my father. Second uncle and the other uncles all have a lot of shares. Because of that, it has always been difficult for us to unite and grow. Now that father is gone, they must be thinking of dividing up the shares of our main family. Shouldn't the property be frozen? They still have the mood to fight over it? Yang Cheng asked as he and Anshin walked into the house. Anshin shook her head. Although it is frozen, it will be unfrozen sooner or later. After all, the family's property is not small. If the country wants to eat it, it will be too brazen, and it will not be good for the government's image. Moreover, the Rothschild family's investment is still effective, and recovery is not difficult. Therefore, it is reasonable for them to take advantage of the situation. While talking, the two of them, accompanied by a few servants, entered the inner hall of the mansion. Under the bright crystal chandelier, more than 10 well-dressed men and women with arrogant expressions were sipping red wine and drinking tea, sitting on the sofa and chairs in the living room. waiting for Anshin's return. Seeing Anshin enter the house with an unfamiliar man, these relatives were a little confused, but they did not take Yang Cheng too seriously. Instead, after exchanging some glances with each other, they stood up. A middle-aged man came up to greet them. He looked somewhat similar to Zai Huan, but he was younger and taller. He had a mustache and a rather gentlemanly smile. He said to Anshin in a warm voice, "Anshin, you're back. Your father left you just like that. Your second uncle, was worried to death, so I immediately came to see you. It's good that you're fine." Anshin forced a smile. Second uncle is too worried. "I'm fine. He is him, and I am me. Child, don't try to be brave and make things difficult for yourself." A beautiful woman walked over and said with a pitiful expression, "Your father is really too much. Of all the things he can do, he has to go against the country. It's really unfortunate for our family to leave a poor child like you and run away. However, Anshin, don't be too sad. There are still us elders here. If you have any difficulties in the future, don't hesitate to look for Aunt." Anshin bit her lips and nodded. "Thank you, Aunt. I'm really fine. Everyone came so late and must be very tired. Why don't you rest early? There are also empty rooms here that you can stay in." A few elders looked at each other, and a middle-aged man with inverted triangular eyes smiled sinisterly. "Anshin, this is not the time to sleep at this critical moment. Actually, us uncles came here to talk to you about something." "Sixth uncle, please speak," Anshin said indifferently. That old sixth was obviously acting as a spokesperson. "Anshin, you also know that our family's business and funds have been frozen. We uncles can't sleep. This is the foundation of our clan that has been passed down from generation to generation. How can we just watch as he destroys it? So, your second uncle, third aunt, and I have all looked for the leaders of the various levels. The leaders said that as long as we can follow their requirements, our assets will be unfrozen as soon as possible, and the business will continue to operate as usual." A trace of understanding flashed through Anshin's eyes, but she still asked, "What conditions?" Old Six said with a sigh. The higher-ups said that if the head of the family, that is, Big Brother, can hand over the shares and give up the position of chairman, then it can be considered that our family is no longer an accomplice of treason. Hearing this, Yang Cheng, who had been quietly listening on the side, laughed in his heart. An family's internal fight was so insidious. It seemed that everything was premeditated. The flaws in Zai Huan's investigation by the Department of National Defense were not the negligence of the American FBI, but the flaws in the family's internal affairs. Of course, Anshin also guessed this. Otherwise, how could this group of people be so fast? And Zai Huan had just sneaked out of the country, and they already had a way to save the family? "Niece," the second uncle said with a pained heart, "although I don't want to, we have no choice but to do this. Big Brother has already committed a grave sin. It can be said that depriving him of political rights and all his property is nothing to fight for. And the country did not confiscate his property, but left it to us to settle down. We should be grateful." So Anshin chuckled, glanced at the people present, and said, "So, as the first in line to inherit the property, uncles hope that I can give up all the shares I have, so that the family can gain the trust of the government, right?" Anshin, you've been smart since you were young. You understood it immediately," second uncle praised. Anshin's smile faded. "What if I don't agree?" Such a quick change of words caused the faces of the family's uncles to stiffen. After a moment of dead silence, the woman chuckled and said, "Niece Anshin, although Aunt dotes on you, I can't let you do whatever you want. This is for the sake of our family, whether you're willing or not. You have to give up your shares." With that, the woman clapped her hands, and a man in a suit walked in from outside. Holding a briefcase, he placed a document on the table and said to Anshin, "Missin, I am the family's legal counsel. Here is a share transfer certificate. You only need to sign your name, and the shares in your hands will be transferred to the members of the family present according to a specific ratio." I said, "I won't transfer it." Anshin said coldly, "If uncles just want to talk about this, then please leave. Even if I'm penniless, I won't give up my shares." With that said, everyone's face darkened, and their expressions began to turn unfriendly. Humph! The woman sneered arrogantly. You really think you're so great? Our elders are talking to you nicely, but you don't listen. Do you really think we can't do anything to a little girl like you? Someone, let this little girl press her hand on it. In an instant, several bodyguards surrounded Anshin, while Anshin's two female bodyguards were fixed at the back, unable to move. Anshin subconsciously threw herself at Yang Cheng and hugged him tightly, leaning against Yang Cheng's chest. She raised her head and looked at the man with innocent eyes. Hubby, I'll be obedient this time. I'll give you a chance to perform. Yang Cheng smiled. This little demoness really knew how to act, but he quite liked this plot. A few bodyguards surrounded him, but Yang Cheng was too lazy to make a move. He directly released a ring of energy with his body as the center, directly sending a few bodyguards who didn't know what was going on flying. With the increase of his cultivation, Yang Cheng was no longer interested in having physical contact with ordinary people. Although Anshin knew that Yang Cheng was very strong, she didn't expect that her lover wouldn't even need to move his hands to be able to instantly and magically take care of these big men. She was immediately pleasantly surprised and kissed Yang Cheng's face hard and giggled, Hubby, you're great. These words were also said loudly on purpose, so that all the uncles present could hear them. It was obvious that he was angry at these people. Yang Cheng's casual move had already scared this group of arrogant men and women quite a bit. They retreated a few steps, and it was the second uncle who cried out with a pale face. Who are you? Why do you care about our family's business? Is there something wrong with your brains, or is there something wrong with your ears? Yang Cheng sneered. Didn't you hear my darling Anshin call me hubby? Tell me, why should I care? Everyone was shocked. They had never seen Yang Cheng before, nor did they know that Anshin had such a perverted partner. Although they wanted money, they were even more timid and afraid of death. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited until Zaihuan was in such a situation before they came to fight for the family property. Although they were unwilling, these old foxes all wanted to retreat. They signaled with their eyes and nodded to each other. Humph, what a good daughter of the family, finding an outsider to deal with us. The woman mocked. Consider yourself ruthless. Let's see how long you can last with the family's assets frozen like this. After saying that, they turned around and were about to leave. Yang Cheng asked Anshin with his eyes if he wanted to keep them here or even kill them on the spot. Yang Cheng didn't mind, but Anshin shook her head. Although she hated them, they were still family after all. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she wouldn't do it, not to mention that they didn't kill her. However, just as the door to the mansion opened, a servant of the family ran in from outside, panting and shouting, Not good. Not good, young miss. There are troops from the Jiangnan military coming to capture us. Chapter 718. Hearing this, the relatives of the family who were about to leave turned pale, and some even fell to the ground. The army is here. It's over. It must be the leaders at the top who can't bear it anymore and want to kill our family. Someone immediately reacted. This damn old thing. You ran away and caused us to be implicated? This group of people obviously didn't know that before Anshin came back, she was almost taken away by the people of the Ministry of Defense. Their whimsical idea that as long as Anshin handed over the shares, everything would be fine was simply a delusion when the government was really not happy. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. While everyone was in a state of panic, the main door outside had already opened. 2 rows of dozens of valiant soldiers with loaded guns rushed in and stood on both sides. It was obvious that there were officers coming in. In the huge courtyard, the cold light of the steel guns suddenly appeared, and the chilling atmosphere made the servants run far away, not daring to look. Yang Cheng's face was gloomy. Jiangnan military region? He could probably guess who was coming. Although it wasn't a big deal, he was still annoyed. After all, Anshin had been in contact with Guo Xiuhua, and she also had some understanding of Yang Cheng's background. At this time, seeing Yang Cheng's unnatural expression, she immediately understood what was going on. She was quite worried and shrank beside Yang Cheng. If it was really that person, how should she face it? She couldn't be rude, but she couldn't make her lover unhappy. In the blink of an eye, a handsome man in a dark green military uniform, followed by 2 guards, walked to the gate with steady steps. There was not the slightest joy or anger between Yang Pejuan's eyebrows, as if dyed with a layer of dark clouds. It was hard to see clearly, but it also made people uneasy when a storm would pour down. As soon as he raised his head slightly, Yang Pejuan happened to meet Yang Cheng's eyes at the door. Neither of them spoke, but the deep meaning in each other's eyes was not as simple as disgust. In fact, there was no need for a military commander like Yang Pejuan to personally come to the Yin family to capture Anshin. After all, the Yin family was just a merchant family. No matter how rich they were just ordinary people. However, what made the people of the Ministry of Defense extremely angry was that the people who were sent to capture the eldest daughter of the Yin family, Anshin, were casually beaten by a man who appeared out of nowhere. After the Ministry of Defense discovered the situation, they immediately identified the identity of Yang Cheng through the surveillance video and investigation of the site. After analyzing the information provided by the National Security Agency, the higher-ups of the Ministry of Defense realized that it was the eldest grandson of the Yang family. Moreover, the National Security Agency also gave them some information about the background of Yang Cheng, and specifically told them not to use force. They had to find a way to negotiate. Otherwise, they would go for wool and come home shorn. Therefore, no one in the Ministry of Defense dared to undertake such an arrest mission. After all, they might offend the Yang family and fail to complete the mission. In the end, the higher-ups of the Ministry of Defense made an urgent decision to request the military commander of Zhonghai, Yang Pejuan, who happened to be in Zhonghai. After all, they were both from a Yang family, and they were father and son. Yang Pejuan couldn't shirk the responsibility. As for the relationship between Yang Pejuan and Yang Cheng, they couldn't be bothered to care. Speaking of which, capturing Anshin and Zaihuan didn't have much of an impact on the actual situation between the two countries. After all, this matter wouldn't be made public. However, if they gave up on the mission just because Yang Cheng stopped them, then the higher-ups of Huaxia's military would be silently admitting defeat to the United States. They couldn't afford to lose face like this. It was under such an atmosphere that Yang Pejuan suddenly received the order. He didn't refuse and quickly rushed over with his troops. Listen to my order. Take away all the men, women, young and old here. Leave no one behind. Yang Pejuan said solemnly. A group of soldiers loudly responded, and with a straight face, they quickly rushed in all directions, surrounding and arresting all the servants and housekeepers of the Yin family. The uncles and relatives of the Yin family were already scared out of their wits. When they saw the soldiers rushing towards them, they were either screaming or begging. They didn't have the arrogance they had when they forced Anshin. When 2 soldiers tried to get close to Yang Cheng and Anshin, they were repelled by a gust of air before they could even get within a meter of each other. The 2 soldiers fell directly in front of Yang Pejuan, causing Yang Pejuan to frown. Today, I'm here on a mission. I'm here to arrest the Yin family for collaborating with the enemy and committing treason. I'm not here to have a personal grudge with you. Don't go too far. Yang Cheng hugged Anshin's waist and calmed her down. He said slowly, I don't have any personal grudges with you. I just want to say that the one who made a mistake was in Zaihuan, not anyone else. As for you wanting to arrest the Yin family, I don't care. However, an XIN is my woman. You can't even touch a single hair on her body. Yang Pejuan snorted. You obviously have a family, but you're hugging another woman in the middle of the night and saying such shameless words. Ridiculous. Ridiculous or not, it's up to you. I'm not some high-ranking official on TV. I'm just this shameless and shameless. What can you do to me? I only know that I have to look after my woman and not let her be wronged. As for my family matters, it's not someone else's place to make irresponsible remarks. At the very least, my wife is still willing to live under the same roof with me. Compared to some people whose wife doesn't even want to see him, I'm much more successful. Yang Cheng teased disdainfully. Others were confused by these words, but Anshin, who was snuggling up to Yang Cheng, understood most of it. Anshin felt that these words could easily cause conflict. She couldn't help but look at Yang Cheng worriedly, then at Yang Pejuan. Although she was touched by Yang Cheng's protection, she also felt guilty. Yang Pejuan's face darkened even more. Don't challenge the bottom line of my tolerance. I'm working for the country. If you insist on going against me, you'll be the one to suffer in the end. Then let's see who will suffer in the end. Yang Cheng smiled meaningfully. He took out his phone and dialed a number. Yang Pejuan frowned. He didn't understand what Yang Cheng wanted to do, but his attitude of not putting him in his eyes annoyed him every time they met. But he also knew that guns and ammunition were ineffective against this young man. Moreover, Yang Goming's attitude was obviously biased towards Yang Cheng. Although he was dissatisfied, he didn't dare to challenge his father's authority. He could only stay in the Jiangnan military region for a long time and go home as little as possible to avoid annoyance. To be honest, he also didn't know how to solve the deadlock between the two of them. Sometimes, Yang Pejuan would also think that it would be great if his youngest son, Yang Lai, had such ability. Why did it have to be this eldest son who shouldn't have appeared in the first place? His appearance not only shattered his dream of entering the Politburo Standing Committee, but even the position of the head of the Yang family might be directly passed on to the next generation. He couldn't accept it. The power that he had fought for decades and was about to succeed was gone just like that because of a child who was forced to abandon him in the past. He was even more indignant. Why didn't his wife and father understand him? Could it be that only grandchildren were blood and he, the son, was not blood and flesh? Why did his wife leave him for this kid? All kinds of complicated anger and resentment made it impossible for Yang Pejuan to accept that this young man in front of him was his own son. Just as Yang Pejuan was feeling helpless, Yang Cheng's phone call went through. Molin, help me contact Hua Xia's Ministry of National Defense. I have something to discuss with them. Yang Cheng was calling Molin from Sea Eagles. Molin was obviously stunned on the other side, but he didn't dare to ask too much. It wasn't difficult to contact the Ministry of National Defense. After all, it wasn't hacking into the defense system. It was just a phone call, and it wasn't completely closed to the outside world. Yes, sir. Please wait for a moment. After hanging up, less than a minute later, Yang Cheng's phone vibrated. It was obvious that the Ministry of National Defense had received a notification from Molin and specially called Yang Cheng. Yang Pejuan was surprised when he saw that Yang Cheng actually contacted the Ministry of National Defense. He couldn't understand what he was trying to do. For a moment, the entire courtyard was silent. I'm the Chief Staff Officer of the Ministry of National Defense. You can call me General Liu. Did you send someone to contact us? A man's deep voice came from the other end of the phone. Yang Cheng didn't waste any time. I want to make a deal with you. A deal? General Liu was a little confused. That's right. You're in a hurry to capture the family because you want to find out where Zaihuan is. Moreover, you want Zaihuan to appear on his own and capture hostages. But let me tell you, it's useless. Since Zaihuan ran away alone, of course, he wouldn't care about his relatives and family. As for the family, they don't know about Zaihuan's deal with other countries, and they don't know where Zaihuan is. Yang Cheng analyzed. General Liu pondered for a moment. Continue. You just want to save face and let the Americans know that Hua Xia's Ministry of National Defense isn't stupid. They can make a comeback, but it's just a waste of effort. Instead of wasting time, why don't I help you capture Zaihuan? Then you can stop blaming the innocent and family. What do you think? Yang Cheng said. General Liu had seen some of Yang Cheng's information. Of course, he knew that since Yang Cheng said this, he wouldn't be making things up. Although he found it hard to believe, he still said, I'm very happy that you're willing to serve the country. You're indeed the descendant of Marshal Yang Yi. If that traitor in Zaihuan can be captured and brought back to the country, then family can obviously avoid suspicion. I think you've misunderstood. I don't have such noble patriotism. Yang Cheng chuckled. I've lived in different places since I was young. Countries and ethnic groups don't affect me much. The reason why I captured Zaihuan and exchanged him with you is because, first, what he did made me, the person who gave him everything, lose face. Second, and most importantly, his daughter is my woman. He made my baby sad, and I won't let him have it easy. General Liu didn't know what expression he had on his face. After a moment of silence, he said, "No matter what, since you're willing to help, I'll trust you for now. But at least give us a time limit. We can't wait for too long." Before daybreak, Yang Cheng was very decisive. General Liu thought he heard it wrong. "You say that again?" I said, "Before daybreak, I'll send in Zaihuan to Zhonghai and hand him over to the army." "If there's no problem, I'm hanging up," Yang Cheng said impatiently. General Liu was obviously stunned. He hesitated and wondered if this kid was lying to him. Before daybreak? Doesn't that mean he only has about 3 hours? And Zaihuan had been out at sea for almost 10 hours. If he took a plane, he could go to Australia. But on second thought, it was impossible. He had no reason to lie to him. Anyway, it would only be a few hours. General Liu gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I promise you. I'll let Commander Yang supervise and hand him over after you capture him. If Zaihuan is captured and brought back to the country, everything can be discussed." Chapter 719. After hanging up the phone, Yang Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. It wasn't a difficult task, but he was a little unwilling to go and capture Zaihuan in the middle of the night. Yang Pajuan, Anshin, and the rest also heard Yang Cheng's words and roughly knew what had happened. Yang Cheng caressed Anshin's face. "Do you mind if I capture your father who abandoned you and send him to someone else? If you don't want anything to happen to him, I can protect him." Anshin's eyes were filled with tears, but she forced a smile. "I'd be lying if I said I don't mind at all. But since he doesn't care about me anymore, how can I put the man who loves me in a difficult position because of him? Go. No matter what you do, I'll support your choice. But you have to be careful. Don't let anything happen to you. TSK, TSK." Yang Cheng looked at the woman with a gentle expression. "And Zaihuan is indeed Zaihuan. You can always tickle my heart. It's so comfortable. The more obedient you are, the more I can't bear to see you cry." Yang Cheng sighed and hugged Anshin tightly again before turning to Yang Pajuan. "I'll bring in Zaihuan here directly. It'll take at most 2 to 3 hours before dawn. If you don't want to wait, you can leave. But you can't touch him." Yang Pajuan said coldly, "I'd like to see what you can do with this little time. I'll stay here with my men. As soldiers, it's our duty to obey orders. Since the Ministry of National Defense has agreed, we'll naturally follow the rules." After saying that, Yang Pajuan ordered his men to release the Yin family and send them back to their houses. They were strictly guarded, but they didn't use any violence. The relatives of the Yin clan had long lost their minds. They only knew that Yang Cheng was the one who could save them. The dissatisfaction they had towards Yang Cheng just now was all gone. At this moment, they all showed shame and gratitude in their eyes. Seeing that it was about time, Yang Cheng leisurely walked out of the gate. He didn't look like he was going to hunt down a thief, but rather like he was taking a leisurely stroll. It was not until Yang Cheng left that Anshin withdrew her gaze. She suddenly realized that Yang Pajuan was still standing in front of her. Her face was a little red, and she lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Yang, Commander Yang, please come in and take a seat. I'll make you some tea." Although Yang Cheng could ignore his biological father, Anshin did not dare to neglect him. Yang Pajuan looked at Anshin with a complicated expression. This graceful young girl was looking at Yang Cheng with deep affection. As a senior, he could see it in his eyes. He blurted out, "With your qualifications, is it really that good to be a third party for that brat?" Anshin raised her head in surprise. After a moment, she smiled shyly. "Sometimes I'm not willing, but when he treats me well, it doesn't matter." The solemn expression on Yang Pajuan's face gradually disappeared. He sighed and shook his head. No one knew what he was thinking, and then he went into the house. Although Anshin was puzzled, she was too lazy to think about it. She turned around and looked at the direction of the gate, and then she immediately followed him in. The night wind blew gently. In the sleeping city, there were always some people who couldn't sleep. The gurgling river was still flowing at a steady pace. Under the bridge, a few dark and dirty figures were busy working in full swing. A black-faced, bearded man was grabbing the 2 plump, long legs of a woman. The white thighs were stained with saliva and kiss marks, and even some bruises. The bearded man clamped his legs on his waist, and his buttocks pressed against the private parts of the middle-aged woman. The glued area was full of water splashing sounds. Although the frequency was not fast, every time it fell into the bottom of the cave, it invaded every inch of territory. The enchanting woman couldn't resist at all. She could only let out sobbing sounds. This was because the woman's youthful face, which had been maintained well, was currently being sat on by the skinny tramp's crotch. The skinny tramp grabbed the woman's head with both hands and sat on top of the woman's face. His buttocks rubbed back and forth, and he laughed proudly. How is it? My hands are not bad, right? This woman is good at scolding, isn't she? Now she's obedient. As long as she opens her mouth, I'll fart for her to eat. The black-bearded man who was working hard was sweating, and his body smelled bad. This is so king good. I've only seen a few good-looking women like this. I didn't expect to have the chance to sleep with one in my life. Even if I have to go to hell tomorrow, I'll accept it. Hey, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and do it. If we're done, Cripple and I are going to do it again. Another tramp shouted. Although Cripple's leg was inconvenient, he was young and hot-tempered. He also pounced over like a wolf and tiger, but he was not as strong as the black-faced man. After releasing 2 cannonballs, he leaned against the pier and lost his strength. He waved his hand and said, "You guys play? This woman is good, but the bottomless pit is too deep. I can't stir it anymore." Hee. Talented student, you're better at reading than me, but your movements aren't as fancy as mine. The black-bearded man laughed evilly as he exercised. I'll show you a few more powerful moves later. I'll definitely make this woman suffer. I really don't know how old this woman is. She looks like she's in her 40s, but why does her skin look like a young lady's? Rich people can really enjoy themselves. Why do we care so much? It doesn't matter if we're rich or not. At this point, it's better to have a few more rounds. We'll just run tomorrow. We don't know where this woman is from, and I'm afraid that someone will come looking for us. Even if we avoid her, no one will be able to find us. We don't want to get into trouble. The few of them said all kinds of filthy and ugly words, as if they wanted to fight until dawn. Such a mature and beautiful woman wasn't someone that vagrants like them would have the chance to touch in their lifetime. With the opportunity before them, none of them wanted to waste it. At this moment, Luo Tsuishan, who had been tormented by them for a long time, had red and swollen eyes, covered in dust and tears. Her face was covered in snot and tears, but she didn't even have the strength to cry anymore. When the woman woke up, she was suddenly awakened by a sharp pain in her crotch. What happened next was even scarier than the fabled hell. In an unknown wilderness, under the bridge beside the river on the dirty ground, there were mosquitoes flying everywhere, and the worst thing was that there were 4 dirty and smelly vagrants. He was actually pressed down by a black-bearded man without a single piece of clothing on him. Before he could react, a long and hard object filled with the smell of urine entered his mouth. Everything that happened next, Luo Tsuishan didn't dare to think about it all. At this moment, her mouth and nose were filled with milky white stickiness. Even her husband, Ning Guangyao, had never done such erotic things with her during sex. She realized later that it was Yang Cheng's men who threw her here. All of this was Yang Cheng's punishment for her failure. She didn't have any spare thoughts to hate Yang Cheng, because she knew that it was all over for this arrogant woman, and she wanted nothing more than to die. No matter how she resisted or how she insulted them, these vagrants wouldn't let her go, because these people had nothing to begin with. Barefooted people weren't afraid of wearing shoes. Even if she told them that she was the premier's wife, a high-ranking official, would they care? They wouldn't care about you at all. This kind of blow was true despair. This made her break down even more than killing Luo Tsuishan. At this moment, in a jeep above the bridge, Adeline of the Sea Eagles and Fanny, 2 female members who had just arrived, were laughing and chatting. Your Majesty Pluto really knows how to torture people. Those 4 vagrants down there must be planning to squeeze themselves dry, Fanny giggled. Adeline played with the small video camera in her hand as she flipped through the videos and photos recorded inside. She smiled evilly as she said, "This is the first time I've done something like this. Looks like my photography skills are pretty good. Fanny, look at this. It looks like this lady is enjoying it." Fanny rocked back and forth in laughter, then asked, "Since we've taken these, it's enough to be our trump card. Why are we still following them?" Adeline nodded. "Your Majesty Pluto said that this is the first scene. After this scene is over, we need to follow the Premier's wife and use a realistic angle to see what she's going to experience next. Sir said that we're going to shoot an art film, so we can't just have hand-to-hand combat. We have to have some details that reflect real life, to capture the deepest part of human nature, to resonate with the audience." Fanny was overjoyed. What kind of life can there be? I'm guessing that the Premier's wife will commit suicide tomorrow morning. Suicide is also an ending. Anyway, we just have to record it and hand it over to His Majesty Pluto. Adeline stretched her back and smiled. "All right, let's take a break. You have to accompany me. I'm going to be very bored shooting an art film alone." Fanny rolled her eyes. How can a job like this be boring? Yang Chung, who is currently above the boundless ocean, couldn't be bothered to care about what happened to Luo Tsuishan's fate. Above the vast ocean, Yang Chung stood beside a few clouds, as if he was walking on flat ground. No matter how cold the wind blew past his ears, and the temperature was tens of degrees below zero, he didn't feel the slightest chill. After leaving the in-residence, Yang Chung didn't restrain himself anymore. He teleported to the ocean and called Maekdan, waiting for Maekdan to tell him where in Zaihuan was. In fact, the only place in Zaihuan could be was in the Philippines and the U.S. military bases. Otherwise, Hwasea's spies wouldn't have been unable to track him down. As for the Israeli Mossad agents, as an organization that was as famous as the U.S. FBI, they were spread all over the world. Any U.S. military base wouldn't lack Mossad spies. Maekdan, the pirate and spy leader, not only controlled the Mossad of the Jewish people, but he also controlled the elites of many other spy organizations. Therefore, Maekdan would be more efficient than Sauron in searching for information within the military bases. As expected, in less than 5 minutes, the bald fatty Maekdan called. He smiled proudly and said, "Your Majesty Pluto, the Zaihuan you're looking for was arranged to enter the 3rd Naval Base of the U.S. military in South Asia 3 hours ago. I can tell you the coordinates immediately, and I've also gotten the details of the military deployment. Or should I send someone to help you bring that guy out?" Yang Chung said, "I only need the coordinates. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's faster for me to go myself." Maekdan didn't dare to have any objections. He answered and hung up the phone, then immediately sent the specific geographical location. For Yang Chung, who was very familiar with the world map, finding a huge naval base was not difficult at all. Chapter 720. In the living room of the Lin family's mansion in Zhonghai, the lights were still on even though it was already midnight and the sun would rise in a few hours. On the soft sofa, Lin Ruashi had just taken a shower and put on a light pink silk nightgown. She hugged her knees and stared blankly at the clock on the wall. She seemed to be lost in thought. A pair of delicate arms were exposed to the air. Her snow-white skin was like flawless white jade. On the side of the woman's face, her delicate facial features were set off by her black hair. Her lips were like pink pearls, bright and beautiful. Looking down, she could see a pair of jade feet that were curled up on the sofa outside her skirt. There was a trace of light blue blood vessels in the white skin. Her cardamom-like toes were round and plump. Not a single nail polish had been applied, and the pure pinkish-white nails made every knuckle look especially delicate. With her natural beauty, Lin Ruashi didn't have to be too deliberate to make her look as beautiful as a painting. Still not sleeping? Suddenly, a familiar and gentle voice came from behind. Lin Ruashi was startled at first. Then, she turned around and said, "Mom, why are you here?" Guishuehua was still in her cotton pajamas. She had removed her makeup and looked especially friendly. There were traces of aging on her face, and the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were slightly visible. Pursing her lips into a smile, Guishuehua came to Lin Ruashi's side and sat on the sofa. "How can I sleep with you like this? I think your mother Wang can't sleep at night, too. She just doesn't want to disturb you and doesn't know how to tell you." Lin Ruashi lowered her head. "I'm sorry, Mom. I made you worry. As long as you're a parent, no matter what happens to your child, there will always be times when you're worried. Guo Shuihua reached out and gently hugged Lin Ruoshi's fragrant shoulder. You cried when you entered the room just now, but Yangcheng didn't come back with you. Something must have happened. Are you waiting for Yangcheng to come home now? Lin Ruoshi bit his lips. I'm sorry. This Yangcheng is really insensible. No matter what happens, he has to go home. Don't tell me that husband and wife always hide from each other and don't talk. Guo Shuihua frowned. Lin Ruoshi shook her head. It's my fault this time. It's not his fault. Did something happen to the two of you again? Weren't you fine just now? Why did this happen all of a sudden? Guo Shuihua asked with concern. What exactly happened? Can you let me know? Lin Ruoshi hesitated for a while. She didn't want to tell the other family members at first, but the accumulated sadness and grievances in her heart made her feel very uncomfortable. So, she roughly told them what had happened in the past few days. Although she hid some parts that would make Guo Shuihua too worried, just the general outline of what had happened was enough to make Guo Shuihua's expression change several times. When she found out that the Shui family had been expelled from the country by the elders of the Ning family and the Luo family, and that Luo Cuishan had even used the Shui family to threaten Lin Ruoshi and Yang Cheng, Guo Shuihua's face was filled with hatred. I didn't expect that the premier's wife, a ministerial official, would do such despicable things. I met her a few times in Beijing back then. Because she was Premier Ning's wife, we had a friendly conversation. I really couldn't tell that she was a snake and a scorpion. Guo Shuihua sighed. But the Ning family is powerful. It's not something we women can get involved in. Don't be so stubborn and let Yang Cheng handle it. Lin Ruoshi nodded obediently. She seemed a little sad. I know that I can't win against them. No matter how much money I have, I can't win against power. Guo Shuihua lovingly stroked her daughter-in-law's hair and touched Lin Ruoshi's delicate and smooth face. After hearing what you said, I have to say that you did wrong. Even if you hid it from others, you shouldn't have hidden it from Yang Cheng. It's not easy for him to worry about you, be afraid that you'll get hurt, and keep trying to make you happy. Moreover, he fought with Luo Cuishan for you. It could be said that he was leading the way for you. Even if he's capable, it's not just a simple fight. There are many things that happen one after another. He did so much for you, but you only cared about the Shui family in the United States. How could he not be upset? A trace of tears welled up in Lin Ruoshi's eyes. Her voice was a little choked. I know I went too far. I don't know why I did this. When I realized what I said was wrong, the words had already left my mouth. I also hate myself. Why can't I learn how to talk to him? I also want to treat him better and make him like me more, but I just don't know what to do. Guo Shuihua felt sad. She hugged Lin Ruoshi's trembling body and said, Child, what's so difficult about it? What do you not know? In the end, you're too stubborn. You're always waiting for Yang Cheng to take the initiative to communicate with you. How can there be such a good thing? You've been married for more than a year. Do you still want Yang Cheng to go all out to pursue you? Think more about what Yang Cheng needs and what you can give him instead of thinking about what you have that Yang Cheng wants. In this way, the two of you will naturally get along. Lin Ruoshi raised her head. Her watery eyes seemed to be pondering and at a loss. Guo Shuihua smiled gently and said, Child, you're even more beautiful than your mother when she was young. To be honest, as a mother, I'm very happy that Yang Cheng married you. Who doesn't want their grandchildren to be extraordinarily beautiful in the future? Lin Ruoshi's pretty face blushed. Mother, why are you suddenly saying this? Of course I have to say it. Guo Shuihua sighed. Ruoshi, as someone who has been through it, I have to say this to you very seriously. No matter how beautiful you are now, you'll grow old in a decade or so. No matter how you take care of yourself, you're old. You can't be compared to those young girls. Maybe now, you can tie Yang Cheng's heart to your side because you're more beautiful than anyone else. But what about in the future? Men are different. When men get older, they'll accumulate more things. On the contrary, they'll be especially attractive to many women. Besides, you also know that Yang Cheng doesn't have much immunity to women. What if you're no longer young, and your relationship with Yang Cheng is always distant and close? What do you think will happen? Lin Ruoshi's face turned pale, and a trace of panic flashed through her eyes. She had never thought about what would happen after a decade, but when Guo Shuihua mentioned it, Her heart suddenly became heavy. No matter how her relationship with Yang Cheng was, in terms of marriage, they wouldn't make any more fuss about it. This marriage was no longer a contract marriage. Divorce for the traditional Lin Ruoxi was very difficult to accept, not to mention that there were feelings. The conversation in the coffee shop that day, and then in the square outside the building, Yang Cheng's singing had already made her no longer doubt where she belonged in this life. Think about it. Even now, there are many young and beautiful girls around Yang Cheng, and Yang Cheng can't bear part with them. Fortunately, you don't have to be afraid of them now. After all, you're the one who's married, and you're not inferior to those girls. But in the blink of an eye, you have the confidence to let Yang Cheng live with you patiently in the future, even when you're no longer youthful. Guo Shuehua said. Lin Ruoxi lowered her head sadly. She suddenly felt that her brain wasn't as useful as she thought. Even if she had never been afraid of anyone in the business world, she didn't know how to face such a situation. Yes, women will grow old. When I'm old, will I still work all day and spend my life in the business world? Guo Shuehua stroked Lin Ruoxi's hair and advised, Ruoxi, listen to Mom's advice. While you're still young, don't spend all your energy on your career. Learn more about how to communicate with Yang Cheng. It's not enough to buy clothes for him and cook for him. You're his wife, not a maid. Only when you build a strong foundation for your relationship, when you're young, can you continue to love each other when you're old. Lin Ruoxi nodded slightly, looked up at Guo Shuehua seriously, and said with some grievance, But, Mom, since you want to help me so much, why did you help Yang Cheng meet Annie Ma in the first place? Guo Shuehua looked a little embarrassed. She smiled at Shan Shan and said, Really? Why did you suddenly mention that? Sai, what can I do? You're both husband and wife. I want you and your wife to be in harmony, but I also want Yang Cheng to be comfortable. In short, Mom will support you spiritually. You should take advantage of it. Guo Shuehua couldn't sit still anymore. She hurriedly stood up and turned to go upstairs to her room. Only Lin Ruoxi was left sitting on the sofa alone. She looked at the clock that was still passing minute by minute, as if she was thinking about what to do at the same time. At the southernmost tip of the Huaxia Sea, above an island adjacent to the Pacific Ocean, a figure suddenly emerged from the darkness and looked down at the island. On the island, there was a huge military base with lights on. Dozens of advanced fighter jets, some transport planes, and armed helicopters were parked neatly. Near the edge of the sea, there were warships with cannons pointed at the sky. Even in the distant sea, there was a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier watching from afar, as if the behemoth would put out everything with all its firepower if there was any abnormal movement. Due to the confrontation between the two countries at sea, the third party, the U.S. Army, had already sent a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to suppress the situation. Although it had not officially opened fire, such a super long-distance weapon was enough to deter the navy of any country. Yang Cheng didn't pay much attention to these weapons. After looking at the architectural layout of the military base, he found a tall, reinforced concrete building with the most concentrated lights. His figure flashed, and he landed. After breaking through the innate full cycle, instant teleportation was not worth mentioning even if he didn't use the space power of the Lord. A group of soldiers from the U.S. armed with M4 rifles were patrolling the periphery of the headquarters of the base. Although it was almost impossible for someone to come to such a core place without being discovered, none of the soldiers relaxed. At this moment, a ghostly figure suddenly appeared outside the main entrance of the headquarters. A black-haired young man was leisurely walking toward the entrance. The dozen or so soldiers present almost thought they had seen a ghost. They were shocked. When they came to their senses, the first thing they did was to raise the rifles in their hands and madly spit fire. If they didn't open fire at this time, then they would have been soldiers for nothing. Chapter 721. The violent bullets were like a thunderstorm, venting around Yang Cheng's body. An invisible shield blocked all the bullets. The metal lumps were like children who had been bullied and softly slid to the ground. After a long time, there was a large pile of discarded bullets at Yang Cheng's feet. The group of soldiers was dumbfounded. When they finished all their ammunition, They found the scene before them like a dream. A dark feeling from the bottom of their hearts made them uncontrollably retreat. Yang Chung smiled gently and greeted them in a friendly manner. "Good night. It's hard to be on a night shift. It's a pity that I didn't bring supper. Otherwise, I could treat you guys to the lamb skewers I roasted. My cooking is pretty good." The inexplicable opening remarks made the soldiers' minds go blank again. Lamb skewers? The United States doesn't have that. The alarm of the military base rang sharply, and all the searchlights were instantly turned on. Soldiers in the light and in the dark surrounded them from all directions. In fact, this was the effect that Yang Chung wanted. It would be too slow to ask their officer for him. It would be better to directly show himself and let the alarm sound. Then the commander-in-chief would naturally come out. Sure enough, after the U.S. troops stationed in the base discovered the intruder, they immediately surrounded Yang Chung. Hundreds of muzzles were aimed at Yang Chung. The soldiers, who were still not neatly dressed, looked solemn as if they were facing a great enemy. They had just seen from afar that this man was unaffected by the rain of bullets. Their eyes were filled with fear. Yang Chung glanced around and asked in American English, "Where's your officer?" "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to talk to someone." After a moment, a rough voice came from behind the group of soldiers. "Sir, your actions have angered the U.S. Navy. I hope you can give a reasonable explanation." A middle-aged white man, wearing an officer's uniform, stood out. The two attendants behind him obviously didn't want him to show up, because the enemy in front of them was obviously an unconventional existence. Yang Chung glanced at the officer's rank and smiled. "Colonel, you can call me Colonel Jimmy," Jimmy said with a serious expression. "I'm the person in charge of this military base. Is there anything you want to discuss with me?" "Sir?" Yang Chung said directly, "I wanted Zaihuan. I know he's here. Bringing him back to Huaxia is my only goal." "So, this gentleman is from Huaxia's military?" Jimmy asked. Yang Chung shook his head. "I'm me. I have some personal issues to settle with in Zaihuan. I don't want to talk about these things with you." Jimmy furrowed his brows. "Although I'm very surprised that you know about this. Mr. N is an important guest of ours. He's under our protection, and we won't let him get hurt. I didn't give you the right to choose. The reason I'm asking you for the person is because I don't want to kill all of you. After all, I'm not your enemy," Yang Chung said. Jimmy said angrily, "Sir, you seem to have underestimated the dignity of the U.S. Navy. Although you seem to be very powerful and shocking, it's not enough for us to admit defeat." Yang Chung sighed slightly. "You really won't let him go? Soldiers, tell him our answer," Jimmy shouted. A group of U.S. Navy soldiers shouted, "We'll defend our honor with our lives." Yang Chung shook his head regretfully and loosened his spine. "I'm not afraid of being louder." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Chung pointed one of his hands in the direction of a parked F-22 fighter jet. Boom! When the Marines were wondering what this Oriental man was going to do, the fighter jet that had been parked suddenly burst into flames. It exploded. The sound of the explosion made all the soldiers, including Colonel Jimmy, open their mouths wide and speechless. Yang Chung nodded with satisfaction. Ever since he reached a new realm, he hadn't really used many of his techniques. Just now, he had used a burst of true inner force to instantly penetrate the fuel tank of the fighter jet. The high temperature caused by the friction had ignited the fuel tank and caused an explosion. Compared to the space laws used by the sovereigns to unseal themselves, Huaxia's cultivation techniques paid more attention to the precise use of power. Just a little bit of power was enough to destroy everything in its path. It did not have the power to topple mountains and overturn seas, but it was more lethal. Of course, Yang Chung could vaguely feel that he had only reached the realm and mastered a little bit of the techniques. The real techniques were definitely much more profound. Just a feeling of understanding everything in the world should be able to mobilize a lot of mysterious power for his own use. It was a pity that he didn't have a master. Those powerful people from the ancient times, just like Yin Sanyang said, were no longer in this world. He could only slowly explore it himself. The burning flames shone on the faces of the UA Navy members present, sending chills down their spines. They subconsciously took a few steps back. This was completely a human nuclear weapon. Colonel Jimmy's face was gloomy. Sir, since we are not enemies, why are you doing such a thing? No matter how powerful you are, can you fight against the entire U.S. Army? Yang Chan said impatiently. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. What I'm trying to say is simple. Either you hand him over immediately, or I'll destroy one of your large-scale weapons every few seconds. I'll start with the planes, then the warships on the sea, and finally your nuclear aircraft carrier. I don't think it's too much trouble. Of course, if you still refuse to hand over the person, then I will have to kill your people one by one until you hand over the person. After saying that, Yang Chung pointed at the void again. Rumble. Another armed helicopter was blown to smithereens in a cloud of black smoke and fire. A few pieces of the alloy rotor were thrown into the sky and fell, causing another uproar in the U.S. Army. Colonel Jimmy's legs turned to jelly, and he leaned on the two attendants behind him in an unsightly manner. He finally realized that this guy was completely unreasonable. The U.S. Navy, which had always been invincible and domineering in the world, tasted for the first time the feeling of being powerless. This feeling was brought to them by only one person. It really wasn't good. Do you want to continue? Are you going to hand over the person? Yang Chung asked again. Jimmy's face turned red, and he was so ashamed that he didn't know what to do. However, when he saw that Yang Cheng's face was starting to become unhappy again, and it looked like he was going to raise his hand again, Jimmy finally couldn't take it anymore. Don't. We'll hand him over. Hand him over, Jimmy exclaimed, showing a fawning expression, and glared at the two soldiers behind him. Hurry up and bring that Zaihuan out. The soldiers were actually relieved. This enemy was obviously not someone they could resist. Fortunately, their commander admitted defeat. Otherwise, they could only wait for death. Soon, the two soldiers dragged out Zaihuan, who had been hiding in the room, not daring to come out. Zaihuan, whose clothes were disheveled, didn't know what was going on. When he saw that the person who appeared was actually Yang Chung, a trace of joy appeared on his face. Yang Chung, Zaihuan said excitedly. You finally came? Did that girl Anshin ask you to find me? You have a way to save me, right? You're so powerful. The people from the Department of Defense will definitely let me go for your sake. I'm fine now, right? Yang Chung walked forward expressionlessly. His cold gaze made Zaihuan gradually scratch his head, not knowing what was going on. I have to say, you really make me feel tired. Right now, I don't even have the interest to say a few words to you, Yang Chung said in a dull tone. And Zaihuan was full of doubts. His face was stiff as he smiled foolishly. Yang Chung shook his head, reached out his hand, and knocked the back of Zaihuan's neck, directly making this guy faint, so that he wouldn't have to look at his despicable face. He grabbed Zaihuan's collar, dragging him on the ground as if he was carrying an object. Yang Chung couldn't be bothered, and said to Colonel Jimmy, All right, although it was a little unpleasant, nothing big happened. However, as someone who lives in Huaxia, let me remind you, what you want to do at sea is none of my business. It's best not to disturb my normal life. Otherwise, your aircraft carrier will still sink. No matter what expression Jimmy and the other Navy soldiers had, when they reacted, Yang Chung had already carried in Zaihuan and disappeared from the spot. Jimmy's face turned green and white, gritted his teeth, and said to the staff officer on the side, Immediately contact the Pentagon. Immediately. The Navy base was in chaos, but for Yang Chung, there was nothing to worry about. On the way back to Zhonghai, although Zaihuan was brought along, Yang Chung wouldn't have any trouble. He only needed to use his inner force to protect Zaihuan's body, and during the teleportation process, he wouldn't turn into powder. But before leaving the country F Island, Yang Chung suddenly remembered something. After thinking for a while, he felt that it was necessary, so he went to a few other islands before returning. When he returned to the Yin family, it was about an hour after he left. Yang Pajuan and the soldiers, as well as the Yin family, were all waiting in the hall. When Yang Chung suddenly entered the door and threw Zaihuan on the ground like a dead dog, not only Yang Pajuan, but everyone in the Yin family was shocked. Big brother? Still calling him Big Brother? He's an animal. The relatives of the Yin family were all noisy, and they looked at Yang Chung in disbelief, not knowing how Yang Chung did it. Yang Pejuan was sitting at the dining table in the living room, drinking the tea brewed by Anshin with a solemn expression. He didn't expect that in such a short time, Yang Chung really brought someone back. The person is here. You can take him away. The matter with the family is over, Yang Chung said casually. Yang Pejuan coldly snorted and signaled the soldiers to take Zaihuan back to the car. He stood up and said, I'm only responsible for catching the person. I don't care about anything else. After that, he left with the guard without saying goodbye. The family and the servants all breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, they were saved. They looked at Yang Chung with eyes full of gratitude and respect. When an XIN saw the unconscious Zaihuan being dragged away immediately, her expression was the most complicated. Sadness, hatred, bitterness, and pity. All kinds of emotions made her struggle on the spot for quite a while before she clenched her teeth and walked to Yang Chen's side. Forcing a smile, she said, You didn't encounter any trouble, did you? Are you injured? No matter what, he was her only biological father. Yang Chung looked at the woman who deliberately hid the pain on her face and felt a burst of heartache. He gently patted the beautiful woman's face and said with a smile, I'm not hurt, but trouble. I really encountered it before I came back. It made me go around in a big circle. Chapter 722. When Anshin heard this, she couldn't be bothered to feel sad about Zaihuan's situation. She hurriedly asked with concern, What trouble? Is someone trying to harm you? Did the UA do something to you? Yang Qing looked at the woman's anxious face and thought it was cute. He lowered his head and pecked on her lips, causing Anshin to be stunned. Silly baby Anshin. Even if the UA chased and bombed me with missiles, that kind of thing is not trouble at all for me. Yang Qing laughed and suddenly lifted the front of his shirt. From the waist of his pants, he took out something wrapped in a paper bag. Hee, look, what's this? Yang Chung shook the yellow paper bag in his hand and asked proudly. Anshin was even more confused. After taking a closer look, she recognized a few Chinese characters on it. She hesitantly said, This is dried mango from Country F? Yang Chung nodded and smiled. Before I came back, I remembered that Country F dried mango is a world-famous snack. It's sweet and not greasy, so I wanted to bring you a bag to try. But because it was too early, the stores weren't open. I went around in a big circle before I found a small 24-hour supermarket and bought you a bag. I didn't know how good it was, so I didn't buy much. Fortunately, I brought a credit card, or else I really wouldn't have any money to use. As Yang Chung spoke, he opened the package and took out a piece of dried mango. He put it in front of Anshin's mouth. Open your mouth and have a bite. Anshin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She pouted and glanced at the man. Really? I thought something happened, and you scared me. But she still obediently opened her mouth and ate the dried mango in Yang Cheng's hand. Looking at Anshin chewing, Yang Chung grinned and said, How is it? Is it delicious? I asked the boss, and he said this brand is not too greasy and there's not much sugar. It's very original. Anshin nodded and said with a gentle smile, It's quite delicious. It's sweet and fragrant. Yang Chung was quite satisfied. He stuffed the rest of the bag into Anshin's hands. Since it's delicious, take it and eat it slowly. If you want more next time, I'll go buy it for you. Anshin looked at the dried mango in her hand, and then looked at Yang Chung, who was beaming with joy. She asked in confusion, But, honey, why did you suddenly buy me dried mangoes? It was quite urgent, and it must have been hard to find them. Yang Chung sighed, reached out and hugged the woman tightly in his arms, whispering in her ear, I know, no matter what the result is, your heart will be very bitter. So, I want to let you eat the sweet dried mango, at least not too bitter. Although this idea is a bit stupid, you should understand what I mean, don't you? Anshin's soft body trembled slightly in Yang Cheng's arms, and silent hot tears fell on Yang Cheng's chest. She murmured, You're really annoying. I think, honey, you're the big fool. Yang Chung laughed, as if he was enjoying it very much. When the two hugged each other, the surrounding relatives of the family, who did not dare to move, stood far away. Although they were curious about what the two young people were talking about, They did not dare to come forward out of fear of Yang Cheng. After Yang Cheng comforted the woman's heart, he glanced at the group of people and said, "If it wasn't for my baby Anshin who said to spare your lives, I wouldn't mind killing all of you just now, because I'm not in a good mood these 2 days. But since things have come to this, there's no point in killing you. The family will soon return to normal operations. If you know what's good for you, you should know what to do next." The group of relatives looked at each other, and there were many who had cold sweat on their foreheads. How could they not understand what Yang Cheng meant? It was fine to live, but they had to get rid of any improper thoughts. In the end, the second son of the family, who was the leader, was the first to say, "Since the family can survive, it's all thanks to Anshin. Of course, we should let niece Anshin be the next head of the family. I've decided to transfer my shares to niece Anshin. I'm old. It's time for me to step down." "Ha!" The second son of the family said this, his eyes full of pain, but in order to leave safely, he had to do this. Soon, the others also expressed their willingness to transfer shares, because the lawyer did not leave the family. All of this could be quickly resolved on the spot. Although Anshin did not intend to take the shares of these relatives, she also knew that this was the safest way for her future position in the family. So she listened to Yang Cheng and took the shares of these uncles under her own banner. Looking at the lawyer sorting out all kinds of documents, Yang Cheng said, "From now on, you can quit your job as my secretary. With your ability and the support of the Rothschild family, it won't be too tiring to manage the family's business. No matter what kind of person your father is, after all, this is your home, and it can't be broken in your generation." Anchi nodded, and she also cheered up. The place where she grew up, no matter how sad the past was, she always hoped to protect everything. Suddenly, Anshin thought of another question and whispered to Yang Cheng, "Then husband, I'm leaving. Which sister are you looking for as your secretary?" Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. "Why do I have to find a secretary? Can't I do things by myself? Can't I just do my own work? If there's a problem, I'll just ask the people below. Don't worry, I'm busy enough with you guys right now, so I don't dare to provoke anyone else." Hearing this answer, Anshin happily replied, and Yang Cheng laughed evilly and said, "But baby Anshin, you still have to come to my office to see me occasionally. Otherwise, I'll be bored if I stay alone for too long." Hearing this, Anshin immediately understood what Yang Cheng meant. She blushed and said shyly, "I'm not going to your office to be bullied by you." Yang Cheng was depressed. "No way. Then wouldn't I have no motivation to go to work?" Anshin gave him a coquettish look and said in a low voice, "Idiot hubby, you can come to my office in the future." This sound of bashfulness almost made Yang Cheng's blood rush to his head. Looking at the little demoness beside him who was like a honey peach, he swallowed his saliva a few times. He wished that Anshin could go to the office in the next second. At the same time, on the other side of the ocean, located in North America, Washington, D.C., U.S. Department of Defense, Office of the Chief of Naval Operations. The Supreme Commander of the Navy, General Roughhead, was sitting on a mahogany chair. Beside him were 2 staff officers. The 3 of them were facing a video that was being played. A strange Asian man, like a magic trick, casually pointed to the fighter jet and turned it into a pile of burning scrap metal. Roughhead's face was gloomy. After watching the video 3 times, he finally forcefully smashed the remote control into pieces. Damn it! Who can tell me? Who the hell is this person? What made our most glorious, invincible Navy suffer such humiliation? Roughhead, who had been smooth sailing ever since he took office, was now like a raging lion. However, he was shocked to find that his claws and teeth were all softened and couldn't move. The 2 staff officers were helpless and couldn't say a word. They could only silently endure his anger. At this moment, the office door was pushed open. A bald, middle-aged white man, wearing a plain shirt and trousers, walked in with a smile. However, seeing this seemingly amiable man, Roughhead and the 2 high-ranking staff officers had serious expressions and stood up straight. "Director Mueller, is there a result from the investigation?" Roughhead didn't find it strange that this person would come at this time. This was the current director of the FBI, Robert Mueller. Robert turned around and looked at the video that was still playing on a loop. He let out a long sigh and said with his slightly hoarse voice, "General Roughhead, I think you should meet Mr. President and discuss something with him." "What is it?" Roughhead frowned. "Evacuate the fleet from the South China Sea of Huaxia," Robert said lightly. Roughhead's face stiffened. "Why? Do you want us to appear weak? Just because of this man who appeared out of nowhere? Even if he's a mutant, don't we have Blue Storm?" Robert glanced at him and took out a tablet from behind him. "General, this is the confirmed information on the man's identity. Actually, if it wasn't for the special nature of this incident, you wouldn't have had the chance to see this man's information in your lifetime. However, you're very lucky now. I suggest you take a look and say a few words." Roughhead was stunned. His expression turned solemn as he carefully took the tablet and turned it on. The two staff officers were very tactful. They definitely couldn't look at this kind of information, so they quickly retreated to the side. Just as Roughhead opened the screen, his hands trembled, and he almost dropped the tablet. He was shocked to see that the label on the folder was 3SS. SSS. Even if it was a super-secret document on anti-human experiments, it would at most be a double S from the Investigation Bureau. There were actually 3 S's? Roughhead's heartbeat quickened. He finally understood why the director of the Investigation Bureau personally sent the information over. The importance of such a thing was unimaginable. Forcing himself to calm down, Roughhead took a deep breath and continued to open the file. What came into view was a seemingly ordinary picture. On it was a simple black ring, and below the ring were the words Pluto. With a series of almost dumbfounded expressions, Roughhead finished reading the short information. It took almost a quarter of an hour. When Roughhead stiffly returned the tablet to Robert, his face was covered in cold sweat. Robert was still smiling. "Now, General, you should understand what I mean. Go and discuss with the President. The President actually hasn't seen this information. If it's not necessary, it's best to keep it to a minimum." Roughhead nodded heavily. "I will go. But, Director, that person, are you sure he won't help any side and won't make a move against us?" Robert patted Roughhead's shoulder. "Whether that person will make a move against our Navy depends on how we show respect to him. I believe you understand what I mean." Roughhead gritted his teeth and said, "I'll go to the White House immediately. I guarantee that within 3 days, the fleet will leave Southeast Asia." The sudden change in attitude left the two staff officers dumbfounded. The main character who brought about this series of changes was far away in Zhonghai, Huaxia. He didn't know, or rather, didn't care. Yang Cheng made arrangements for the clan. Seeing that the sky was getting brighter, he bade farewell to an excitant and found a place with no one around. He teleported to a street near the bar, found his car, and returned home. Chapter 723. By the time he reached home, it was already early in the morning. Yang Cheng did not expect that he would be busy for a whole day and night. It was funny to think about it. A person like him who idled around all day and did not do a proper job, or rather, did not have a proper job at all. He should be very leisurely playing games every day, but for some reason, there were always all kinds of problems that kept him from being at peace. He got out of the car and walked toward his house step by step. Logically speaking, with his physical fitness and cultivation, he should not know what fatigue was at all. However, Yang Cheng clearly felt that after dealing with a series of matters, he seemed to have been baptized by a storm in his heart. He walked on the muddy road for a whole night, and it was indescribably strenuous. Mo Qian's matter had not been resolved yet. Lu Mingyu had been sent to the police station. Li Mingyi and Wu Yu's matter, dealing with the trouble of Luo Tsuishan, and then the problem of the Yin family. It was in this courtyard that he had unhappily parted with Lin Ruoshi last night. Yang Cheng had a headache. He was even thinking about whether he should find a time to give himself a long vacation to relax. In the thin morning fog, the figure walking in the courtyard revealed a faint sense of dejection. Pushing the door open and walking into the living room, Yang Cheng had originally planned to go upstairs directly and take a shower before breakfast to refresh himself. There was definitely no need to sleep. However, as soon as he entered the door, he saw a pink figure standing up from the sofa in a slightly flustered manner. Dressed in a nightgown, Lin Ruashi's eyes were a little red and swollen, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked delicate and lovely as she stood barefoot on the carpet in the living room and stared at the man who had entered the door. She looked like she wanted to say something, but stopped herself. Yang Cheng looked at the woman for a while in shock. Are you going to tell me that you didn't sleep last night? After waiting for a whole night, Lin Ruashi had already forgotten her initial thoughts. However, when she saw the man coming back, she couldn't help but feel all kinds of mixed emotions of joy, grievance, and sadness. Stepping forward silently, Lin Ruashi stopped not far from Yang Chun. Her thin lips trembled as she said, Don't be mad at me, please." This pleading sentence made the originally muddle-headed Yang Cheng's thoughts clear again. After they separated last night, she was afraid that he would be angry with her and not want to go home. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. He really didn't think of calling home last night. Involuntarily, Yang Cheng couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He looked at his gloomy wife and said in a low voice, "Don't think too much. It was my fault. I didn't call you. You better go up and rest. Yulei's trial is over. You need to rest." Lin Ruashi shook her head and said unwillingly, "Answer me first. Don't be angry, okay? You know I'm not good at talking. You left like this yesterday, and I regretted it very much. I couldn't sleep at all." Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. "I'm fine. It's really okay. You lied to me," Lin Ruashi said sadly. "If you're not angry, why didn't you go home last night?" Yang Cheng. Lin Ruashi bit the corner of her lips, and there was a hint of desperation in her sadness. "Don't pretend to be indifferent. The more you act like this, the more I feel sorry for you. I'll definitely change in the future. If there's anything, I'll tell you in advance. I won't let you worry about me for nothing. I'll think before I speak, and I won't say anything wrong again. Can you believe me? Do I have to kneel down and beg you?" Yang Cheng was stupefied. Looking at the woman's pleading eyes, he was dazed for a while, and then he smiled, as if he was laughing at himself, or as if he had thought of something very interesting. Lin Ruashi looked at him blankly. What are you laughing at? I'm very serious." Yang Cheng waved his hand and said, "I'm sorry. I just suddenly remembered that I've always been the one asking for forgiveness from you. Suddenly, our positions have been swapped, and I'm not used to it." Lin Ruashi blushed, and there was a hint of shyness in her clear black eyes. "I'm not an unreasonable woman. It's my fault. Of course I'll say sorry." Yang Cheng let out a long sigh. He scratched his head and said gently, "Ruashi, don't ask for my forgiveness. It's not the first time we've met. You should know a little about my character. I'm really not angry with you. I left last night because I was a little upset. I admit that I'm a little unhappy with your way of doing things, but it's not to the extent of being angry over such a small matter. Love isn't a bank loan, and I have to pay it back. I've given, but it doesn't mean that I want to receive much. Besides, you're my wife. It doesn't matter if you like me as your husband or not. How can I be angry with you? It's fine if you're angry because of me. But if I'm angry with you, then I can't live with you anymore, right?" Lin Ruashi was a little surprised at first, and then she felt a trace of joy and sweetness in her heart. "You are really not angry? Then why didn't you come home last night? I thought you didn't want to talk to me and didn't want to come back." Yang Chun smiled awkwardly and said, "I had something urgent to deal with last night. I was so busy that I forgot to call you. I have to admit, my mind was in a mess last night." "Oh." Although she was curious about what happened, Lin Ruashi didn't dare to ask. When she came back to her senses, she suddenly felt that she hadn't said those words in the past 20 years. She couldn't help but blush. Her hands were intertwined on her skirt, and she didn't dare to look at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng comforted Lin Ruashi's emotions and felt relieved. He still had to live his life, as usual. Could it be that others were always in a Cold War, and he was also in a Cold War? There's no need to be narrow-minded. Lin Ruashi recalled what Guo Xiuhua said to her. She didn't care about her shyness and asked softly, "Are you hungry now? You haven't eaten breakfast, right? I'll go to the kitchen to make something for you, okay? I've learned how to make egg pancakes from Mother Wong, so I can make some simple ones." Yang Cheng revealed a trace of astonishment and grinned. "No need. I want to take a shower and rest for a while. Let's eat together when Mom and the others come down." It's still early. You too. Aren't you tired after not sleeping all night? Go rest. Oh. Lin Ruashi was a little disappointed as she replied. Then go take a shower. Yangchen wasn't used to the woman who was so cold yesterday. Today, she suddenly became as graceful as a Jiangnan woman. If he wasn't in front of her, it would be hard to believe that such a shy and gentle woman was actually Lin Ruashi. Could it be that he was stimulated? Yang Chung didn't have time to think too much about it. He scratched the back of his head and smiled at Lin Ruashi before going back upstairs. After returning to his room, Yang Chung rushed into the bathroom and took a comfortable cold shower. After wiping his body, he walked barefoot into the big bedroom and rummaged through his clothes and pants. At this moment, there was a movement outside the door. Yang Cheng's ears were sharp, and he could tell that it was Lin Ruashi's footsteps. Yang Chung, can I come in? Yang Chung was startled. He casually grabbed a pair of underwear and said, Oh, what's the matter? Lin Ruashi carefully opened the door and walked into the room. When she saw that Yang Chung was only wearing a pair of shorts, her face was flushed red, but she did not directly avoid him. She held a pile of clothes in her hands and said, I'll help you bring up the washed clothes. Yang Chung looked at Lin Ruashi in a daze. It had been a while since she was silently responsible for his clothes, and sometimes he didn't pay much attention to it. The wardrobe seemed to be organized by the woman, and when he thought about it carefully, it seemed that Lin Ruashi was indeed slowly making some changes. Many small details, when linked together, would make people feel that there was a big difference. Seeing that Yang Chung was standing there in a daze without saying a word, Lin Ruashi was at a loss for what to do. She then walked to the wardrobe and hung the clothes neatly inside. Yang Chung wore a short-sleeved shirt and sat on the bed. He watched as Lin Ruashi finished her work. He thought that the woman would leave just like that, but he didn't expect that she would actually turn around and face him. What's wrong? Yang Chung asked curiously. Lin Ruashi herself didn't know why she was staying in this room. Facing Yang Chung, who was sitting on the bed, her heartbeat quickened. In her mind, she repeatedly thought about the matter of Guo Xuehua asking her to take the initiative to communicate more. Since they were going to communicate, of course, they had to choose two people. It was a quiet time in private. However, Lin Ruashi didn't know what to say. Should I sit next to him? What if he wants to do that? No. Didn't he say that he would only do it during the wedding? But what if he wanted to kiss me? Forget it. It's not like I've never kissed him before. Speaking of which, I've already given him everything. Just like what my mother said, I should take the initiative while I'm still young. One thought after another flowed through Lin Ruashi's little head. The woman slowly walked towards Yang Cheng's bedside. Yang Cheng was very puzzled. Why was Lin Ruashi acting so strangely? He had never thought that if he were to pounce on the little lady at this moment, she wouldn't even have the intention to welcome him. She was currently determined to take the important step of taking the initiative. Just as Yang Cheng was puzzled, the phone on the bedside vibrated. This interruption caused Lin Ruashi, who was approaching, to stop in her tracks. Her face was as red as the morning glow, and her eyebrows were like flowing spring water. She hurriedly picked up a pile of clothes from the floor and ran out in a panic like a little rabbit. Chapter 724. It's just a phone call. Why do I have to run? I'm wearing my clothes, Yang Chung mumbled, confused. What was wrong with this woman so early in the morning? Could it be that he had hurt her too much by not going home for one night? It was no wonder that Yang Chung didn't understand. They had just had an argument yesterday. Who would have thought that Lin Ruashi's attitude would change so much overnight? Also, who would have thought that Guo Xuehua's words would make Lin Ruashi feel an inexplicable sense of crisis? If there are flowers to be plucked, then pluck them straight. Don't wait until there are no flowers but branches. Men should cherish their youth, and women also need to fight for time. Shaking his head, Yang Chung picked up his phone and saw that it was from Adeline. Yang Chung picked it up and asked, How's the progress? Adeline yawned. Your Majesty Pluto, I didn't sleep well last night because of the task you gave me. I've already sent the recorded video to your email. It's enough to ruin that lady's reputation. What I want to ask is, do you still need to shoot the indie film? If this goes on, it'll become a TV series. Yang Chung pondered for a moment and said, Forget it. Let her be. She won't have a chance to make a comeback anyway. It's up to her whether she lives or dies. After hanging up, Yang Chung walked to the table and turned on his laptop. He opened his email and saw that a video had been sent. Yang Chung clicked it open and couldn't help but smile. Adeline's photography was rather meticulous. Not only did she capture Luo Tsuishan's face in great detail, she even took a few close-up shots of her body parts. From the beginning of the battle to the end of the battle, it was a masterpiece. Especially since it was nighttime, Adeline even shone a spotlight on it. It was quite a feat for her. After closing the video, Yang Chung backed up the video to a portable hard drive. Then he asked Mullen from the Sea Eagles to find a way to send the video to Ning Guangyao's email. Of course, it had to be sent to a private email. Yang Chung didn't want to cause a national uproar. No matter what, as the wife of a leader, it would be a scandal for Huaxia if Luo Tsuishan embarrassed herself in the country or even the world. What Yang Chung wanted to do was to destroy the possibility of Luo Tsuishan making a comeback, and also make the Ning family and the Luo family think twice. As long as he had this video, he would have the upper hand. No matter how much the Ning family and the Luo family hated him, they would have to consider the consequences. Yang Chung wasn't afraid of these people, but it was better to be prepared. After returning to the country for so long, his mind had gradually matured. He wasn't afraid of anything. If he used murder to solve everything, it would only be an underhanded method. Yang Chung also didn't want to cause a commotion, which would be disadvantageous to the people around him. While Yang Chung was contacting Mullen, Luo Tsuishan was slowly waking up under the bridge of the river in the suburbs of Zhonghai. After a night of madness, the four vagrants made Luo Tsuishan completely unconscious until dawn. But because she didn't have any clothes on and was freezing cold, she quickly woke up. Luo Tsuishan subconsciously wanted to get up, but when she exerted a little force on her legs, a piercing pain spread from the middle of her body. Sucking in a breath of cold air, Luo Tsuishan immediately didn't dare to move. Her head was dizzy. She opened her eyes and looked around blankly. It was wet, cold, muddy, and dark. Luo Tsuishan suddenly remembered what had happened. When she woke up, her mind went blank, as if she had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Her face was drained of blood. Tears poured out of Luo Tsuishan's eyes, flowing along her hair and falling on the muddy ground. Between her breath, Luo Tsuishan could even smell the disgusting smell of the four vagrants on her body. Luo Tsuishan only hated herself for not dying last night. She had lived for almost half a century, and she had been a proud girl since she was a child. She didn't expect that one day she would be bitten by four low-class reptiles. How could she face her husband, her son, and the people around her? More importantly, how could she face herself? It turned out that living could really be more painful than death. On the riverside, the woman's face was as white as paper. She looked like a puppet that could be broken at any time, lifeless. After an unknown amount of time, Luo Tsuishan's mind was in a mess. She was numb to the point that she forgot about the pain. She slowly sat up from the ground with the bruises on her body. Because of her struggle last night, her clothes and pants had been torn to pieces by the black-bearded man, and she couldn't wear them at all. The morning air was chilly, and Luo Tsuishan couldn't help but hug her chest. Her two soft lumps of flesh were squeezed together, but she immediately felt the coldness on her buttocks. Luo Tsuishan looked around. This was under the bridge. It was still early, so there weren't many cars or people passing by. But when the rush hour came, she would be found naked like this. What should she do? Luo Tsuishan couldn't imagine what would happen if she suffered a blow like what happened last night, and if she was treated like a lunatic. No. How could I, Luo Tsuishan, become like that? Absolutely not. Looking at the rapid flow of the river, Luo Tsuishan's eyes were filled with tears. She gritted her teeth and murmured resentfully, "If that's the case, I'd rather die. There won't be any pain. Yang Chung Lin Ruashi. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go." After saying that, Luo Tsuishan used all her strength to stand up. Her steps were weak, but she still forced herself to walk towards the river. As long as she fell down and drowned, she wouldn't know anything. "Hey, what are you doing?" Suddenly, just as Luo Tsueshan was about to reach the river, a man's voice came from the other side of the bridge. She saw a young homeless man in ragged clothes holding an oiled paper bag. He had just reached the bottom of the bridge and was shouting at Luo Tsueshan. Luo Tsueshan's eyes showed a hint of sinister sharpness. Even if she turned into ashes, she would still recognize this young beggar in front of her, because this guy with a limp was one of the homeless men who laid on top of her last night and did evil things to her. The cripple couldn't care less about how fierce Luo Tsueshan's gaze was. He dragged his inflexible leg and quickly hopped to Luo Tsueshan's side. Without any hesitation, he pushed Luo Tsueshan back. "Do you want to commit suicide by jumping into the river? Is that necessary? You've only been played by a man for a few rounds. You're not young anymore, so why do you still think you're a virgin? Do you really think you're a treasure?" The cripple laughed mockingly. "What did you say?" Luo Tsueshan was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She didn't care that she wasn't wearing any clothes and spat at the cripple. "Bah, you bastard, do you know who I am? Hee hee, I don't care who you are. You call me a dog? Then wouldn't I be a bitch?" The cripple didn't dodge the spit. Instead, he used his sleeve to wipe his face. "You dare to scold me?" The cripple didn't care and laughed. "I say, Annie, don't do such a stupid thing. You have to think clearly. If you die, you'll have nothing left. You've only been stabbed a few times. It's better to live than to die. Even if you want to take revenge, you need to be alive, right? Do I need you to lecture me?" Luo Tsueshan screamed. The cripple laughed. "You think you're strong just because you widened your eyes and screamed? Aren't you just tired of living after being played by us for a while?" Luo Tsueshan was furious. She bent down and picked up a stone, throwing it at the cripple. Although the cripple's legs weren't good, with Luo Tsueshan's level, he easily dodged it, as expected of a mature woman full of energy. "Last night, you fought with the four of us for an entire night and still have the strength to throw stones at me. You're even hitting me without any clothes on. Yo, Auntie, the two lumps of meat on your chest are really round and shaking." The cripple laughed. Luo Tsueshan suddenly realized that she had been seen naked by the young beggar. She immediately hugged her chest and clamped her legs together. The grievance and hatred in her heart made her cry again. Cripple snorted lightly and walked slowly to the corner of the bridge. He picked up a dirty towel blanket and threw it in front of Luo Tsueshan. "I don't have any clothes to cover you with, so you can just use this blanket. Although your pants are torn, they can still be used as shorts. Scram, I don't need this smelly thing." Luo Tsueshan kicked the blanket away. Cripple laughed disdainfully and took out the cheapest white steamed bun from the oiled paper bag in his hand. He threw it in front of Luo Tsueshan. "Do whatever you want. I didn't leave like the rest because you made me feel good last night. In any case, I'm someone who has taken moral lessons. Letting you use my blanket and eat my steam bun is doing you right. Do you think it's easy for me to ask for money to buy a steam bun? Humph. I'm going to make the four of you die a horrible death," Luo Tsueshan said through gritted teeth. Cripple rolled his eyes at her and took a bite of the steamed bun. What a tough mouth. Even in Zhonghai City, there are so many beggars that you think you can find them. We're people with no status. If I hadn't kindly left you a blanket, you wouldn't even have the door to walk out of this bridge. You'd just be waiting to starve to death here." Luo Tsueshan was speechless. She was so angry that she bit her lips. Sorrow welled up in her, and she squatted down to hug her head and cried again. Cripple chewed on the steamed bun at the side, as if he hadn't heard anything. He only glanced at her from time to time, with a blurry look in his eyes. Chapter 725. Beijing, Ning Family. Ning Guangyao sat alone in his study with a gloomy face. He hadn't slept for the whole night, and his stubble had grown quite a bit. Since Luo Tsueshan's bodyguard sent news that Luo Tsueshan had gone missing last night, Ning Guangyao was first furious, then extremely anxious. This matter couldn't be hidden. After all, Luo Tsueshan was an official minister. Even if he hid it from her, her subordinates would find out that she had gone missing. Throughout the night, people from the Luo family and the government had called him countless times. His son, Ning Guodong, who hadn't been home for a long time, was also anxiously sending people to look for him. He even took a plane to Zhonghai that very night. But even so, there was still no news of Luo Suishan. In comparison, because of Luo Suishan's disappearance, Yulei International's shocking counterattack news, and Lin Ruashi's various flattering news, Ning Guangyao felt that there were countless connections. Because Luo Suishan said she was going to help Yulei. At this moment, the phone suddenly rang. Ning Guangyao was excited and immediately picked up the phone. "There's news." It was Ning Guangyao's subordinate's assistant. He said respectfully, "Premier, someone called and said it's about Madam. Premier, please check your personal email." Ning Guangyao frowned. Personal email? What was the connection? But he didn't suspect anything and immediately did as he was told after hanging up. After opening this rarely known email, Ning Guangyao immediately saw that a new anonymous email had just been sent not long ago. The sender's address was actually blank. It was obvious that the sender was definitely a powerful hacker. In the email, there was a text file and a video file. Ning Guangyao was a little nervous. Since the other party wanted to send it to him personally and not someone else, the content was definitely not ordinary. But he still calmed himself down and downloaded the file. Half an hour later, Ning Guangyao's face darkened after he finished reading the documents and videos. Chuishan, Chuishan. Ning Guangyao murmured these two words. His eyes were deathly still, but his emotions were hard to describe. In Zhonghai, the morning light dispersed the mist, and fresh air filled the green and pleasant courtyard. In the living room, the smell of breakfast wafted in the air. Mother Wang and Guoshiwa were busy in the kitchen, talking and laughing. Yang Cheng didn't rest much after he finished giving Mo Lin some instructions in his room. He circulated his true core force to restore his essence, qi, and spirit. Then, he went downstairs for breakfast. "Good morning, Brother Yang." Jinxiu's playful voice came from behind. A pair of tender arms hugged Yang Cheng's waist, and he could smell a sweet fragrance. Yang Cheng turned around and pinched the girl's face. "Sai, you only know how to act like a spoiled child. I don't have a daughter in the future, so you can be my daughter." Jinxiu pouted. "I don't want to be your daughter, oomph." Making a face, Jinxiu immediately let go and skipped downstairs. She sat at the dining table and began to eat with relish. After such a long time, Jinxiu was no longer as reserved as before. Everyone in the family treated her very well, so Jinxiu naturally integrated into the family. But Yangqing also felt that it was mostly because of the Star Moon group in Korea. Although Jinxiu was unwilling to go back, she knew her background and that she wasn't just a helpless orphan. The inferiority complex in her heart was also greatly reduced. Coupled with Lin Li's previous guidance, she was naturally more open to it. When Yang Cheng sat down and was about to start eating, he saw Lin Ruashi leisurely walking down the stairs. She was wearing a light violet, layered, slanted dress. Half of her shoulders were exposed, and her white, slender calves were exceptionally beautiful and enchanting when seen from below. After a simple comb, her jet black hair, which hung down to her hips, was not tied up like usual. Instead, it perfectly outlined the exquisite contours of an Eastern woman, revealing a bit of classical beauty. Although he had been looking at her for more than a year, Yang Cheng couldn't help but stare blankly for a few seconds. Then, he clicked his tongue and said, "Honey, are you going to dress like this for work today?" Lin Ruashi noticed the look in Yang Cheng's eyes and was secretly delighted. After returning to her room, she didn't bother to rest. After a shower, she changed into a decent outfit and came down. "Do I look good?" Lin Ruashi didn't dare to look directly at Yang Cheng. She sat on the chair and asked with a blush, "Do I look good?" Yang Cheng was speechless. He didn't expect a woman to ask for praise in such a gentle voice. He didn't know what to say for a moment. Jinxiu giggled and said, "Sister Ruashi, Brother Yang doesn't know how to answer your question. You should ask if there's a day when you're not beautiful. That would be meaningful." Yang Cheng nodded in agreement. Jinxiu isn't talking nonsense this time. Lin Ruashi pursed her lips and smiled. Picking up a pair of chopsticks, she picked up a poached egg for Jinxiu. You're such a sweet talker. Eat more. The college entrance exams are next week. You need to keep up with your nutrition. Nodding her head happily, Jinxiu replied, I really want to finish my exams earlier. I'm still not suitable for studying. It's simply torture. After a brief pondering, Yang Cheng said, Oh, right. Speaking of exams, Tang Tang will also be taking it. Jinxiu, do you know Tang Tang? Blinking her eyes, Jinxiu replied, I know her, but we're not in the same class. I think she's on leave, and I haven't seen her in school recently. She went back to Beijing with her mother. When the time comes, you guys will be taking your exams together. Don't lose to that lass. She's a prideful girl, so you have to beat her down for me. Yang Cheng said with a naughty smile. Puzzled, Jinxiu asked, Big brother Yang, how do you know so clearly? You even know where her mother is? Suddenly, Yang Cheng realized that the occasion wasn't right, and Lin Ruashi was right in front of him. So he smiled embarrassedly and said, Didn't I go to Beijing a few days ago to help Tong Tong's mother? There's nothing else. Yang Cheng's words were directed at Lin Ruashi. Although it would be revealed sooner or later, Yang Cheng didn't want to reveal Tang Wan right after he had the Kai sisters. Unexpectedly, Lin Ruashi didn't seem to have any thoughts about it. She just smiled and said, Let's send Jinxiu to the exam hall together. Yang Cheng's jaw almost dropped to the ground. Oh, okay. Then, Lin Ruashi quietly took Yang Cheng's bowl and scooped a bowl of millet porridge for him. She even specially placed 2 plates of Yang Cheng's favorite side dishes in front of Yang Cheng and said, Eat up. Why are you looking at me in a daze? Yang Cheng was really stunned. According to normal logic, shouldn't Lin Ruashi especially dislike Tang Wan? After thinking about it carefully, Yang Cheng felt that Lin Ruashi's words and actions were more and more strange. If he didn't know that no one could deceive his eyes, he would have suspected that it was someone in disguise. But who knew? After just a few mouthfuls, Lin Ruashi's next sentence almost made Yang Cheng spit out his rice. Hubby, let's rest today, okay? Hubby, why did she call me hubby again? Yang Cheng forcefully shut his mouth to prevent himself from spitting out the food in his mouth. He looked up in disbelief at the woman who was looking at him with a gentle expression. He swallowed his food and asked, Ruashi, don't tell me you're going to play that trick with me like last time. Just once is enough. Don't keep torturing me like this, okay? Previously, when Lin Ruashi became a good wife, the whole family isolated him. Yang Cheng still remembered the pain of it. However, Lin Ruashi looked sad. I didn't mean it that way. I just feel that you've been working hard these days, and I want to stay at home to accompany you. If you don't want to, I'll do whatever you want. Yang Cheng hesitated for a while before asking, You really don't want to go to work? Yes, Lin Ruashi said. The company's crisis has passed. The rest of the matters will be taken care of by the subordinates. With my teacher Chris taking care of it, there won't be a problem. Yang Cheng came to a sudden realization. Nodding, he said, No wonder you suddenly brought Chris over from the United States. So it was all to prepare for Li Mingyi's matter. Once Li Mingyi leaves, he can directly fill the vacancy and not let the position of the higher-ups be left empty. TSK, what a good plan. Lin Ruashi frowned slightly. Hubby, let's not talk about work at home. You've already given yourselves the day off. Let's eat breakfast. Yang Cheng was stunned again. For the first time, a workaholic was not interested in work. Was this still the Lin Ruashi he knew? On the other hand, Lin Ruashi began to call Mother Wang and Guo Xuehua over to eat together. She even ran to the kitchen to bring food. She was the image of a well-behaved daughter-in-law, as if everything was only natural. After breakfast, Yang Cheng was still confused. He didn't know what was going on at all. Lin Ruashi, on the other hand, gave herself a rare day off and even took the initiative to drive Jinxiu to school. This action made Yang Cheng scratch his head again. Watching Lin Ruashi and Jinxiu leave, Guo Xuehua finally could not help but cover her mouth and chuckle. She said to Yang Cheng, Son, what do you think of Ruashi? Yang Cheng understood a little and smiled bitterly. Mom, what did you say to Ruashi? I said, even if she felt guilty, it shouldn't have changed so much just because of one disagreement. Guo Xiuhua said proudly. You youngsters still need the help of us older generations. Your mom, just gave Rawashi some guidance to let her know that she should cherish her youth and nurture the relationship between husband and wife. Only then, she won't have no one to love her when she's old. You see, aging is the most effective thing for women, especially beautiful women. Yang Cheng's doubts were instantly solved, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He wanted to say something, but he shook his head and couldn't say anything. On the other side, Lin Ruoshi drove Jinxiu to school. Although there was still a week left before the National College entrance exam, Jinxiu still chose to go to school for the sake of the atmosphere and to ask some questions. In the car, Jinxiu would occasionally look at Lin Ruoshi and sweetly asked, Big Sister Ruoshi, you're a little different today. Are you planning to grab Big Brother Yang's heart from today onwards? Lin Ruoshi's hand that was holding the steering wheel trembled slightly, and her cheeks suddenly blushed. She didn't deny nor admit it. I'm not young. I'm someone with an ID. Jinxiu pouted and suddenly smiled mischievously. Big Sister Ruoshi, do you want me to teach you an absolute killer move? According to my experience, as long as you use it, a man like Big Brother Yang will completely fall under your skirt within 3 seconds. Lin Ruoshi turned her head and glared at Jinxiu unhappily. You only know how to let your imagination run wild. Is this something you should care about? Don't disturb me while I'm driving. Jinxiu was discouraged, and she pouted and said resentfully, All right, I won't say it. But as soon as she finished speaking, she heard Lin Ruoshi look straight ahead and said indifferently, But you can say it. I'll just listen. Just treat it as an examination of your current mental health. Chapter 726. Hearing this, Jinxiu, who was a little embarrassed just now, couldn't help but burst into laughter. She laughed so hard in the car that she covered her lower abdomen. Lin Ruoshi forced herself to calm down and coughed a few times, but her face was still slightly red. What are you laughing at? It's fine if you don't want to say it. I just said it casually so that you won't hurt your self-esteem. Jinxiu nodded and showed an expression of I understand. She moved closer to Lin Ruoshi's ear and stuck out her little pink tongue. Sister Ruoshi, let me tell you, Brother Yang is actually very soft-hearted. You just need to, after talking for a while and explaining quite clearly, Jinxiu moved away from Lin Ruoshi's ear. Lin Ruoshi bit her lower lip and asked with her cheeks burning, Does this really work? Jinxiu muttered, It really works. Sister Ruoshi, don't you often watch Korean dramas? Just learn a few moves from the actresses and it'll be fine. It's because you're just watching and not learning from them that you're always so passive. Lin Ruoshi frowned and didn't say anything. To be honest, she really didn't think about finding inspiration from TV dramas, but Jinxiu reminded her. When the car drove to the outside of Zhonghai High School, Jinxiu got out of the car and waved at Lin Ruoshi. She even gave her an encouraging look before running into the school gate happily. Lin Ruoshi was speechless and smiled gently. Just as she was about to drive back, her eyes met 2 familiar figures. In the parking space in front of the car, there was a black limited edition Land Rover, and next to the tall SUV, there was a tall, mature, and beautiful woman who was talking to a young and beautiful girl who looked somewhat similar to her. The girl pouted impatiently, but had no choice but to listen obediently. It was somewhat funny. The mother and daughter were Tang Wan and Tang Dang, who had just returned to Zhonghai from Yanjin. Tang Wan was just telling her daughter not to be too self-righteous and not to waste time in the last few days of revision. Tang Dang had heard so much that she naturally didn't have a good attitude. In the end, Tang Wan also fell helpless. She waved her hand and let her daughter go in by herself. Only then did Tang Dang let out a sigh of relief. She immediately turned around and ran to the school gate. Tang Wan smiled bitterly and shook her head helplessly. Looking at her daughter's back view, she was still filled with infinite love. It was not until Tang Dang entered the school gate that she turned around and prepared to drive to the company. But just as she turned around, Tang Wan caught a glimpse of the red Bentley beside her from the corner of her eye. Not to mention that super luxurious British cars like the Bentley were rare in the whole of Zhonghai, and red was even rarer. For a successful businesswoman like Tang Wan, She actually knew what cars the leaders of the top companies drove. This was also an ability that she had honed for many years in the business world. Moreover, Lin Ruoshi and she had more than some business dealings. Therefore, Tang Wan instantly knew who was in the car. Lin Ruoshi, who was sitting in the car, also knew that Tang Wan would definitely recognize her car. Therefore, she didn't directly drive away, lest Tang Wan think that she was deliberately avoiding seeing her. What appeared in her mind was the matter of Yang Cheng going to Yanjin to be with Tang Wan during breakfast. In order not to embarrass Yang Cheng, Lin Ruoshi didn't say much and pretended that nothing happened. But she still felt uncomfortable in her heart. She didn't expect to meet the person in question immediately after sending Jinxiu to school. Taking a deep breath, Lin Ruoshi's calm expression disappeared. Her eyes were cold, and she exuded a cold and aloof temperament. In the blink of an eye, it was as if she had become the CEO of a multinational company who had walked out of the company. If Yang Cheng was here, he would definitely be amazed by Lin Ruoshi's transformation. If she had been like this in the morning, he wouldn't have to worry and feel that something was wrong. Opening the car door, Lin Ruoshi stopped about a meter in front of Tang Wan. She didn't say anything, but she took the initiative to stretch out her beautiful white hand. What a coincidence! Why is General Lin at the entrance of the high school? Tang Wan's smile was very gentle, and it was hard to tell whether it was a social interaction or a sincere one. She shook hands with Lin Ruoshi. Both women were people in the business world, so their greetings were quite formal. Tang Wan was wearing a black knee-length dress, and her long hair was loose in big waves. Below her snow-white calves was a pair of light orange, strappy high heels. After being recuperated by Yang Cheng's blood and true inner force, she had completely recovered in the past few days. She looked a few years younger than before. At this moment, she looked like she was not even 30 years old, but she had a mature charm. Standing next to Lin Ruoshi, who was wearing a violet dress, although her facial features and temperament were slightly inferior, she had a different kind of charm. Many teachers, and parents at the school entrance stared at them. If it weren't for the fact that the cars the two women drove were worth millions, people would have gone to talk to them. "I'm giving my sister a ride," Lin Ruoshi said briefly. Tang Wan didn't really want to ask why Lin Ruoshi suddenly had a sister. She pursed her lips and smiled. "Since we met, if General Lin isn't in a hurry to go to work, why don't we have a cup of morning tea together? I'm not going to work today." Tang Wan was a little surprised this time. Yulei International just fought a perfect turnaround battle. Although the stock price has skyrocketed to a new height, it's not to the extent that the company doesn't care. Is this a new plan for General Lin? Lin Ruoshi shook her head and said with clear eyes, "I want to spend more time with him." Tang Wan's breath stopped, and she frowned slightly. Of course she knew who this him was, but she couldn't figure out if Lin Ruoshi suddenly said this in front of her, whether it was a demonstration or a careless remark. Tang Wan felt a headache. In the past, when she met any opponent in the business world, she could at least see through the opponent's words and actions. But when faced with a woman like Lin Ruoshi, who was always cold and indifferent regardless of whether she was happy or angry, her judgment was useless. Unfortunately, this woman wasn't a stupid woman. Tang Wan sincerely admired Lin Ruoshi's wisdom in business, and she definitely didn't dare to underestimate the scheming of the woman in front of her. She felt a burst of bitterness in her heart. Yang Cheng, your wife is much more difficult to deal with than you, Tang Wan thought. But after all, she was used to being arrogant. Tang Wan smiled without changing her expression and said, "If that's the case, then we'll talk about it next time." Tang Wan was about to say goodbye, but unexpectedly, Lin Ruoshi immediately said, "Although I have to accompany him, I can still have morning tea." This sudden turn made Tang Wan speechless and embarrassed. 10 odd minutes later, the two of them sat in a Guangdong tea shop near a high school. Although the two of them had eaten breakfast, it was still comfortable to order some snacks and tea. Taking a sip of tea, Lin Ruoshi knitted her brows. It was a little too thick. She placed the cup down and looked at Tang Wan's expression. "I heard that you weren't feeling well. How is it?" "Thank you for your concern, but I've already recovered." Tang Wan smiled. "You don't have to thank me. I didn't do anything, and I'm just asking. The person you should thank is my husband, right? Lin Ruashi replied. Tang Wan silently nodded her head with a smile. However, she felt a little depressed in her heart. Although Lin Ruashi's words sounded polite, she had clearly separated their identities. If it was a lover who treated her, then it's natural. But if it's someone she's not familiar with, then she naturally has to thank him. And this person might not have any relationship with her, but he's someone else's husband. Furthermore, with Lin Ruashi's character, it made Tang Wan feel awkward for her to call him husband so openly. However, Tang Wan wasn't someone to be trifled with. Since Lin Ruashi had already shown her hand, she replied, "Your husband isn't someone who could be easily saved by just thanking him. He's very smart. He wouldn't be willing to save someone without sufficient benefits. You have to discipline him. Otherwise, a female patient like me will never be able to repay his kindness for the rest of her life after being saved by him." A cold light flashed in Lin Ruashi's eyes. In her heart, she was certain that Yang Cheng must have done something to Tang Wan. What a hateful liar. Before he left, he still looked very innocent. A wave of grievance and helplessness surged in her heart. However, she had strong self-control in front of outsiders, so she did not show it. She continued to speak. "I have no intention of disciplining him. I'm his wife, not his mother. I believe that it won't take long for him to be satisfied, so you can rest assured." Chapter 7:27. Tang Wan looked at Lin Ruashi with a complicated expression and smiled sweetly. "I'm glad to see General Lin so confident." "That's great." Lin Ruashi said, "Actually, Sister Tang, you don't have to call me General Lin. If your daughter Tang Tang marries Yuan Yi in the future, then we'll be in-laws. At that time, it wouldn't be appropriate to call me General Lin or General Lin. I think we should call each other sisters for now. However, you seem to be older than us. Isn't that a little impolite?" Tang Wan clenched her fists under the table and felt uncomfortable. Lin Ruashi's words sounded amiable, but it was obvious that she was an elder. "Don't forget your seniority just because you look young. Some things can be ugly in the future." Tang Wan was also bitter. Although Lin Ruashi's words were sharp, they hit her where it hurt. Indeed, from the current situation, Tang Dang and Yuan Ye's relationship had stabilized after a life and death disaster. She was destined to be Yuan Ye's mother-in-law. At that time, it would be equivalent to marrying into the Yang family. Yuan Yi was Yang Cheng's cousin. If she and Yang Cheng had that kind of relationship, wouldn't it be indecent? Tang Wan suppressed her anger and said softly, "How could that be? Then I'll call you Sister Ruashi. I've never cared about seniority. Back then, the entire Yanjing city saw me as a joke. I still used IVF technology to give birth to my precious daughter. Now that I'm this old, I don't care about these things." Lin Ruashi's lips twitched slightly. "That's right. I also admire Sister Tang's quick-witted mind. In the future, come visit us when you have time. Since we'll be in-laws in the future, it's not a bad thing to visit early. Oh, by the way, my mother-in-law also takes good care of herself, but she's not as good as Sister Tang. When the time comes, you could talk to my mother-in-law. I'm sure the elders will be very happy." If Tang Wan didn't know that this was Lin Ruashi's scheme, she would have flipped the table and left in anger. This woman was indeed an iceberg that terrified her competitors in the business world. The surface was only the tip of the iceberg. Most of the sharp spikes were hidden under the sea. She didn't attend many events, and all the speeches were done on behalf of Mo Qianni and Lu Mingyu. She didn't seem to speak much, but when she got serious, her words were more torturous than the previous one. As she spoke, she became Yang Cheng's mother, Guo Xiuhua. Tang Wan's grievance was indescribable, but she could only endure it. If she were to get angry, she would fall into Lin Ruashi's trap. What would Yang Cheng think if he had a big fight with Lin Ruashi? Would he divorce Lin Ruashi for his own sake? That was impossible. After all, Lin Ruashi only said some polite words. The only possibility was that she didn't dare to get too close to him due to the pressure from her family. When Lin Ruashi saw that it was about time, she took out 2 100 yuan bills from her wallet and put them on the table. She stood up and said, "I still have to go to the market to buy some groceries. It's rare for me to accompany my husband at home, and I still want to show off, so I won't stay for long. Let me treat you to breakfast this time. Although I know Big Sister Tang doesn't care about money, it's still a small token for my junior. After that, Lin Ruashi smiled elegantly and turned to go downstairs. Tang Wan looked at the two 100 yuan bills on the table. She gritted her teeth, and her eyes became moist. She muttered, "It's all your fault, Yang Cheng. Of all women, why did you have to marry such a difficult woman? I'm so angry." When Lin Ruashi walked downstairs, she calmly walked back to the car and closed the door. She let out a long sigh of relief. Patting her chest, Lin Ruashi felt weak. It wasn't easy to compete with Tang Wan just now, but fortunately, she didn't fall behind. When she started the car, Lin Ruashi still felt a little sorry for Tang Wan. After all, she was quite friendly with her other than Yang Cheng. But when she thought about the relationship between Tang Wan and Yang Cheng, Lin Ruashi shook her head and dispelled the guilt. She laughed at herself. Forget it. I'm not a woman with a heart of Buddha. Since I've done something bad, I've done it. It's not the first time I've been sinister and vicious. Since I can't control men, then I can keep women away from me. After thinking about it, Lin Ruashi drove the car toward the supermarket on the way home. Although she needed to buy groceries, Lin Ruashi didn't want to go to the food market. Instead, she chose the supermarket with higher prices. After all, the smell and hygiene in the food market wasn't something she could easily accept. Moreover, being stared at by a large group of people would make her feel uncomfortable. Relatively speaking, the supermarket was a lot more relaxing. It was already 10 p.m. by the time she returned home with 2 large bags of groceries. After all, she was a woman, so she spent a lot of time in the supermarket. At this moment, Yang Cheng was sitting in the living room, watching Korean dramas with Guxiuehua. Although it wasn't something that he liked, he had promised Lin Ruashi that he would rest at home for a day. So he had to make his mother happy. Seeing that Lin Ruashi's head was drenched in sweat and her face was flushed, Yang Cheng came to a realization. Smiling, he said, "My dear Ruashi, are you going to cook for lunch today?" Lin Ruashi bashfully nodded her head. "Don't worry about it. I have already learned a lot, so I can do it." "Are you sure that you haven't forgotten?" Yang Cheng teased. Thinking that Yang Cheng didn't trust her, Lin Ruashi anxiously said, "I can do it. If you don't believe me, you can ask Mother and Mother Wang." Patting Yang Cheng's hand, Guxiuehua smiled. "All right, Yang Cheng, don't bully Ruashi anymore. Don't you know that she's innocent? Ruashi, go in with Mother Wang. You won't be able to handle everything by yourself." Lin Ruashi happily acknowledged before she ran into the kitchen with the bags. Looking at his wife's silhouette, Yang Cheng sighed. Truth be told, he also had no idea if Lin Ruashi was innocent. In terms of doing business, she was definitely innocent. But most of the time, her EQ wasn't high. Her intentions weren't bad, but her words would often hurt others. Perhaps it was only when she wasn't willing to admit defeat that she would become lethal. Seeing that Yang Cheng was pondering, Guxiuehua smiled as she patted Yang Cheng's shoulder. "Regardless of Ruashi's thoughts, you should treat it with sincerity since she's willing to spend so much effort to please you. Right? Huh?" Yang Cheng gently smiled as he nodded his head. Roughly 2 hours later, a sumptuous lunch was prepared. Looking at Lin Ruashi, who wore a pair of heat-insulated gloves, coming out with the dishes, Yang Cheng felt warm in his heart even before he started eating. When Mother Wang saw the couple parting on bad terms yesterday, she felt great that they were so harmonious today. She even took the initiative to go to the wine cellar in the basement and took out an expensive bottle of Bordeaux red wine for the 4 of them to drink together. Speaking of which, the amount of wine Lin Ruashi had was no less than her car. However, the family didn't have the habit of drinking wine during meals, so they rarely enjoyed such expensive wine. Lin Ruashi also had it given to her by others, and she kept it like a bird, so she couldn't remember it herself. At the dining table, Lin Ruashi was clearly absent-minded. She didn't care how much she ate, and from time to time, she would pick out some food and put it into Yang Cheng's bowl. Yang Cheng also had a big appetite, so he didn't refuse anything and wolf down the food. Although there were a few dishes that were not as good as Mother Wang's, Yangqing knew that he needed more encouragement at this time, so he ate with all his might. The two elders looked at the young couple and smiled at each other without saying a word. After eating and drinking, under the influence of alcohol, Lin Ruoshi's dimples were dyed with a layer of rouge. If she hadn't been a concubine for a few times when she deliberately tortured Yang Cheng a few days ago, she really wouldn't be used to such considerate behavior. After cleaning up the dining table and helping Mother Wang clean up the kitchen, Lin Ruoshi took off her apron and took out the fresh watermelon from the refrigerator. She cut it open and dug out the pulp, putting it on a plate and bringing it to the living room. She wanted to order some fruits for Yang Cheng after the meal. Being able to think of this, Lin Ruoshi felt that she had made a lot of progress. However, as soon as she arrived at the living room, Lin Ruoshi saw that Yang Cheng was nowhere to be seen. Did he run out to find another woman? Lin Ruoshi frowned as she stood in the living room. She couldn't help feeling a little sad. Guo Shihuahua stood up from the sofa and shook her head with a smile. "You silly child, what are you thinking about? Yang Cheng is outside basking in the sun. The weather is dry today. Go out and accompany him." Lin Ruoshi only reacted at this moment. She thought that she was really becoming paranoid, but she was slightly happy. She lowered her head in embarrassment and walked out of the door with the watermelon. Guo Shihuahua and Mother Wang both drank wine, and they were a little tired as they got older. Both of them also knew that young people needed to get along with each other quietly, so they chatted and went upstairs to take a nap. Outside the house, the breeze was blowing and the sun was shining brightly. Yang Cheng was half lying on a wide bamboo chair. He squinted his eyes and relaxed his whole body, enjoying the rare, quiet afternoon. This kind of day was originally what he longed for after returning to this country. The faint sun, the warm breeze, and he didn't have to see blood or see darkness. However, he rarely had the opportunity to experience it. Lin Ruoshi walked lightly and tiptoed. It seemed that she didn't dare to disturb Yang Cheng's rest. However, it was not good to turn back with the plate in her hand. So she slowly walked to Yang Cheng's side and asked softly, "Honey, do you want to eat watermelon?" Yang Cheng smelled a nice jasmine smell. He opened his eyes and tilted his head, looking at the beauty beside him. "Are you going to feed me?" Lin Ruoshi thought, "I'm nice to you, but you really do harm to me." "Forget it, I am in the wrong." Lin Ruoshi pouted, took a toothpick and forked a piece of watermelon, and sent it to Yang Cheng's mouth. Yang Cheng ate a piece and chewed without saying a word. Lin Ruoshi asked worriedly, "Is it not sweet? Is it because it's still early and the watermelon is not ripe enough? I don't know how to choose, so I chose the most expensive one." Yang Cheng shook his head and blinked. "Even if it's an unripe melon, my wife will still feed it to me and it will be sweet." "Nonsense." Lin Ruoshi was overjoyed. It seemed that what she did was very useful. Yang Cheng didn't feel as distant from her as he was yesterday. Yang Cheng looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, whose hair was dancing in the breeze. He suddenly felt exceptionally calm. He really hadn't experienced the peace that a woman brought him. Uncontrollably, Yang Cheng waved at Lin Ruoshi. "Be good, baby Ruoshi, come into my arms." Lin Ruoshi's hand that was holding the plate trembled. Fortunately, it didn't fall to the ground. Hearing Yang Cheng's words, her little heart beat faster and she struggled a little. This was outside the house. If she was in a room, it would be fine if he hugged her and took advantage of her. But what if someone passed by outside the door and he wanted to do that kind of thing to her again? Suddenly, the words that Jinxiu said to her in the morning flashed through Lin Ruoshi's mind. That's right, didn't she just use the method that Jinxiu said? But I don't know if I can do it. Chapter 728. Yang Cheng saw that Lin Ruoshi was standing there hesitating. He thought that she was embarrassed and chuckled. "Do you need to think about it for so long? If you're willing, then you're willing. If you're not willing, then forget it. Don't tell me I have to blame you for this." Lin Ruoshi was in a dilemma. At this critical moment, she didn't want Yang Cheng to think that she was intentionally avoiding him. However, she was thin-skinned to be hugged by a man outside the house in broad daylight. In the end, Lin Ruoshi gritted her teeth and silently bent down. She placed the fruit platter on the flower bed at the side and then faced Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng was puzzled. It didn't look like she was going to agree. What was wrong with this woman? Suddenly, Lin Ruashi's moist eyes revealed a hint of spring. That trace of seduction seemed to be overflowing. Tender flowers reflected the water, weak willows swayed in the wind. Nothing more than this. At the same time, Lin Ruashi gently swayed her white shoulders and slender waist. Her purple skirt swayed rhythmically and gently, full of the posture of a bashful little girl. Pouting her pink lips, her nasal voice was like a soft moan that scratched one's heart. Lin Ruashi said in a tender voice, "Hubby, we can't do it outside." This sweet and charming nasal voice directly caused Yang Cheng's drowsy soul to surge with 1,000 ripples. Yang Cheng's eyes widened, and he rubbed his face hard. After confirming that he wasn't dreaming, he was dumbfounded. Heavens, what did I see and hear? Was Lin Ruashi acting coquettishly to me just now? On the other hand, Lin Ruashi, after saying all of this, she wanted to kill herself with tofu. How could she be so stupid? She really listened to that girl Jinxiu and actually acted coquettishly like the girls in Korean dramas. Looking at Yang Cheng's gaze, which could no longer be described as strange, Lin Ruashi's face turned as red as an apple. Pu ha. Yang Cheng pouted. He wanted to hold it in, but he couldn't. After holding it in for a while, he finally burst out laughing. He rocked back and forth as he punched his thighs. He laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. Ha! Ha! Ruashi, darling, you're trying to make me laugh to death. Ha! You even use a nasal voice. Woo! Woo! Ha! Seeing that Yang Cheng was laughing so hard that he was about to fall off the chair, Lin Ruashi flew into a rage out of humiliation. She stomped her feet fiercely, but she couldn't get angry no matter how hard she tried. She couldn't restore her usual cool and elegant appearance. She was so angry that she almost cried. She pouted and protested. "You're not allowed to laugh. Don't laugh. Yang Cheng, do you hear me?" Yang Cheng laughed so hard that he sucked in a breath. He barely controlled his emotions before hugging his stomach. Raising his eyebrows, he said, "When did you learn this trick? Did you learn it from watching Korean dramas? Why don't you say oh bar? Wouldn't that be more compatible?" Lin Ruashi wished that she could dig a hole in the ground. But since things had already come to this, she simply steeled her heart and said angrily, "Forget it. I won't lower myself to your level. If you want to laugh, laugh. Just take it as my apology for making you unhappy. Anyway, there won't be a next time." "That won't do." Yang Cheng shook his head and grabbed one of Lin Ruashi's soft hands. Lin Ruashi felt that her small hand was being held by Yang Cheng's rough and warm big hand. Her delicate body trembled, and she was a little flustered. Yang Cheng restrained his smile and said sincerely, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have laughed at you. After all, you only did that because you didn't want me to be sad. But I'm very serious. The way you act coquettishly is really cute." A warm breeze blew past Lin Ruashi's cheeks. The man's words made her heart itch. Lin Ruashi pursed her lips. She didn't dare to look at Yang Cheng's eyes. She lowered her head, but a charming smile could be seen on her face. The gentleness when she lowered her head was just like a water lotus that couldn't withstand the cold wind's shyness. The two of them were silent for a while. Yang Cheng then said softly, "Let me hug you. If someone passes by, I will definitely know in advance. I definitely won't let you feel awkward. Okay?" This time, Lin Ruashi didn't struggle anymore. Instead, she obediently nodded her head. Yang Cheng was delighted. He pulled the woman's light and soft body into his arms. Because the reclining chair was long and wide, it was just right for Lin Ruashi to lie on him and lean against his chest. Lin Ruashi was a little reserved and didn't dare to move. Although the two of them had been intimate many times in the past, it was the first time in such a situation. She could smell the faint smell of the man after being exposed to the sun. She couldn't tell what it was like. Her nose twitched slightly, and it smelled pretty good. Yang Cheng held his wife's delicate back with one hand and stroked the woman's waist and buttocks with the other. He didn't move or touch it. He just rested it there gently, under the warm sunlight. The two of them lay there like a young couple sleeping soundly. Lin Ruoshi originally thought that Yang Cheng would do something embarrassing. She was already prepared. But after a while, Yang Cheng didn't move at all. She didn't know if she was disappointed or glad. She felt strange. This wasn't like the man she knew. Lin Ruoshi slowly raised her head and stared at their faces that were almost touching. But she found that Yang Cheng was dozing off with his eyes closed. Just as Lin Ruoshi watched silently, Yang Cheng's lips curled into a smile. He closed his eyes and said softly, "Could it be that you think your husband is very handsome and can't help but be fascinated by me?" Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at him and didn't say anything. Yang Cheng patted Lin Ruoshi's back with one hand, as if he was comforting his beloved to sleep. He slowly said in a low voice, "Ruoshi, do you know? I've always thought that married life is actually very simple." The two of them would occasionally go shopping and buy some daily necessities such as oil, salt, and vinegar. They would occasionally watch a movie or listen to a concert. It didn't matter even if they fell asleep in the middle. Occasionally, when they had a holiday, they would go out for a walk. They would climb mountains, go fishing, and travel. Just like that, they would hold hands and go to many places they had never been to. The relationship between a husband and wife shouldn't be hot. It should be warm, but it can also be cool and comfortable. Just like now, on such a sunny and windy day, we can hug our beloved and have a good afternoon nap under the sun. We don't need to do anything intimate. We just need to hug each other like this. It's simple. The man's whispers floated in Lin Ruoshi's ears. Lin Ruoshi blinked and asked a little uncertainly, "It's so simple. Is it really okay?" "Yes," Yang Cheng said. "For me, it's not that I need you to do anything for me. Do you really think that I'm so addicted to your body? I'm not a little boy who's first awakened in love, and I'm not a little virgin who's never touched a woman before. No matter how beautiful a woman is, can I really not control myself? All along, I hope that you can make a change. It's not how you treat me, but how you treat yourself. Don't always let yourself be so tired. Don't put all the heavy burdens on your heart. Don't think that losing once is a big deal. In my opinion, even if you always treat me coldly now, in the future, it doesn't matter. I didn't marry you to enjoy your body. If that's the case, I would rather see you smiling and saying good morning to me when I wake up in the morning and go downstairs than go to work after eating so coldly. After dinner at night, I can see you watching TV with Mom and the others instead of going into the study to work. Give yourself a holiday every year and go out with your sisters instead of being busy all year round. As long as I know, my wife, after marrying me, is happy, then as a husband, I won't feel anything to regret." Lin Ruoshi listened in a daze. Unknowingly, the corners of her eyes became moist. Yang Cheng caressed the woman's soft long hair, took a deep breath, and said, "So, you want me to be happy? Of course I'm happy. But don't force yourself to do anything that's particularly difficult. It's not like I'm the landlord of the old era. How can I be so difficult to serve?" Lin Ruoshi's heart was filled with sweetness. She rubbed her face against Yang Cheng's chest and mumbled, "You are otherwise. How could there be so many concubines?" Hearing this, Yang Cheng pretended to be deaf. He clicked his tongue and raised his head, pretending to be asleep. Lin Ruoshi didn't expose this scoundrel's trick. Instead, she closed her beautiful eyes and slept soundly in the man's arms. At such a time, those troubles would be forgotten for the time being. Chapter 729. In a small commercial district on the outskirts of Zhonghai, there was a mixture of crooks and honest folk. In the middle of two older buildings, there was a small alley. It was cold and damp, and there were a few garbage bins that emitted a strange smell. There were only a few stray cats rummaging around for smelly food. The owner of a small restaurant nearby, wearing clothes full of oil stains, walked into the alley. He carried two large black garbage bags and threw them near the two garbage bins, but did not throw them in. The owner did not pay much attention to where he was going. Just as he was about to return, he tripped on something. "Ouch!" the shopkeeper shouted. Fortunately, he didn't fall down. When he turned around, he saw a female beggar with disheveled hair. Her face was full of dirt, and her clothes were torn and tattered. She was squatting in the corner of the alley, shivering. The fat boss was disgusted and cursed. Stinky beggar. He didn't bother to say anything else and swaggered away. The squatting female beggar, after the fat boss left, began to sob. This beggar was naturally Luo Tsueshan, who came out from under the bridge. Luo Tsueshan did not die, and she did not have the courage to commit suicide. However, after suffering such torture, she did not know how to face her family, her subordinates, and she did not even know who to contact. If people who knew her saw her like this, how would she have the face to continue living? Moreover, she was also a high-ranking official who had been on TV. What if the people recognized her? Wouldn't that be more painful than death? In the torture of her heart, Luo Tsueshan could only wander to this extent. She hid in an empty alley at a loss of what to do. At this time, another figure walked into the alley, limping. Luo Tsueshan suddenly raised her head. Her dirty face was full of anger, and her pair of bloodshot eyes were full of shame and anger. She said, "What are you doing here?" Cripple looked bored and sighed. "Hey, you think I want to come here? This is the only place nearby that is convenient for begging. Do you think I need to take a detour?" Luo Tsueshan snorted coldly and turned her head away, pretending not to see anything. An evil smile appeared on Cripple's face as he took out 2 cold sesame seed cakes and a bottle of unlabeled water from the tattered cloth bag he carried on his back. He then sat beside Luo Tsueshan and munched on the sesame seed cakes as lunch. Because this sesame seed cake was a mildewed, dried vegetable sesame seed cake. The moment it was taken out of the bag, the aroma wafted out, and the fragrance was very strong. Luo Tsueshan hadn't eaten the white steamed buns that Cripple had given her in the morning. She hadn't eaten anything last night either. After being tormented for the entire night, she was now very hungry and weak. Luo Tsueshan couldn't help but swallow her saliva. However, her pride wouldn't allow her to ask Cripple for food, let alone beg. Why does it smell like dried vegetables?" Cripple suddenly felt regretful and turned to Luo Tsueshan. "Hey, I don't like to eat sesame seed cakes. There's still one left, and I don't want to eat it. Why don't you eat it? It's not good to waste it." Luo Tsueshan snorted coldly. "Scram, I don't need your pity," Cripple said unhappily. "Who's pitying you? Do you think I have nothing better to do? I'm a beggar, and there's someone in this world who needs to be pitied by a beggar. Aren't you thinking too highly of me? I just don't want to waste food. Why are you thinking so much? Fine. If you don't want to eat it, then forget it. I'll throw it into the trash to feed the cats." Luo Tsueshan saw that Cripple was about to get up and throw away the sesame seed cake. She couldn't help but pull his leg and say with her head lowered, "You're a beggar, and you're wasting food. How shameless. Give it to me." A trace of disdain flashed through Cripple's eyes, but he pretended to be nonchalant. Here you go. Remember that you owe me a sesame seed cake after eating it. I don't want the dried vegetable one. I want the sesame one. You don't have any ambition, yet you think you're so great just because of a sesame seed cake." Luo Tsueshan took the sesame seed cake and didn't forget to belittle him. Finally getting food, Luo Tsueshan wolfed it down in big mouthfuls. This was probably the first time she had eaten such a delicious sesame seed cake since she was born. However, because she was in such a hurry, she choked and couldn't swallow it down. "Look at you! Why are you in such a hurry to eat a sesame seed cake?" Cripple hurriedly passed the water to Luo Tsueshan and said, "Drink it. I've never drunk this water before, so don't mind it being dirty." Luo Tsueshan couldn't care about anything else at this moment. She took the water and twisted it open to take a big gulp. After swallowing it, she continued to eat in big mouthfuls. Cripple sat in front of Luo Tsueshan and quietly watched her finish the entire sesame seed cake with a smile. Luo Tsueshan stole a glance at him from time to time. This young beggar, who looked like he was in his 20s, was like an ant in the past. But now, even though she didn't admit it, she knew in her heart that this beggar had saved her life twice in a row, although the sins he had committed on his body could not be erased no matter how hard he tried. Why did he treat her like this? Luo Tsueshan was puzzled. She didn't know why, but she felt a little restless when she looked at Cripple, who had a delicate face but was dirty. Beijing, Yang family, Yang Gongming's study room. Sitting in the armchair, Yang Gongming hung up a phone call with a smile on his face. Yin Sanyang stood at the side of the study table. When she saw the old man's expression, her wrinkled face revealed a hint of understanding. "Master, did he ask you to speak up for him again? What else could it be?" Yang Gongming said proudly. Yin Sanyang nodded with a smile. What young Master Chun did this time, although it wasn't for the Huaxia government, the strength he displayed made it hard for the military not to be tempted. It's no wonder. Yang Gongming nodded in agreement. Because Yang Cheng brought in Zaihuan back from the UA military base in Country F in a short span of an hour, and for some unknown reason, the UA military quickly retreated from the Southeast Asian waters. This greatly reduced the pressure on the Huaxia military. Now, the comments on the internet were all on the side of the Navy and the government. They thought that the military could finally hold their heads up high and keep the enemy at bay. This situation was unexpected by the military. Therefore, Yang Cheng, who had only been watched by the Security Bureau, was now being watched closely by the officials in the military. Knowing that he was Yang Gongming's long-lost grandson, the military was even more excited. After all, the Yang family represented half of the Huaxia military. If the grandson of the Yang family was so powerful, then if he could officially enter the military, wouldn't it be possible for the Huaxia military to compete with the UA military? Although the Security Bureau did not disclose a lot of information about Yang Cheng, the military officers were not stupid. They collected some information from overseas and had a rough idea. Out of fear of Yang Cheng and not wanting to be rejected and lose face, there were a few senior officials that morning. But their real intention was to ask Yang Gongming, as an elder, to talk to Yang Cheng to see if he could join the Huaxia's camp. Of course, there were a lot of reasons to do so. "Master, will you talk to him?" Yin Sanyang asked with a smile. Yang Gongming laughed heartily. "Sanyang, it's not a matter of whether I talk or not. It's a matter of whether or not Yang Cheng will listen. Instead of talking to him in vain, it's better not to embarrass myself," Yin Sanyang said. According to the rules of Hongmeng, although young Master Chen doesn't need to hide from the world because of his bloodline of the 4 major families, he can't participate in worldly affairs. Master is worried that if young Master Chen really becomes involved with the military out of filial piety and disturbs the worldly affairs, Hongmeng will be displeased. Yang Gongming sighed. "Sanyang knows me best. Hongmeng may be said to protect Huaxia's foundation, but ultimately, it's an existence that transcends the world. Nothing else matters to their true mission. They won't treat Yang Cheng specially just because he has Huaxia's bloodline. I only hope that Yang Cheng can protect the 3 generations of the Yang family after I die. I'm old, and I can't always rely on myself to stabilize the Yang family's position. Pajuan won't be able to convince the masses, and Lyre isn't magnanimous enough. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he wouldn't have dragged Yang Cheng into this. After all, the bloodline of the Yang family is too thin. It's a far cry from the flourishing branches of the other 3 families." Yin Sanyang said worriedly, "Recently, I've been feeling that the day of my departure isn't far away." Yang Gongming was shocked. He smiled bitterly. What's coming has come. Chapter 730. After resting at home for a day, Yang Cheng didn't stand his men up the next day. He obediently went to his office. However, on the way to the office, Yang Cheng couldn't help but giggle to himself. This was because when he went downstairs in the morning, Lin Ruashi's face was a little unnaturally red. She said good morning to him and purposely smiled shyly. Yang Chun suddenly felt that he was indeed a little like a landlord from the olden era, who even trained his wife to greet him. When he arrived at the office, Wang Jie and Zhao Tong were waiting. They were relieved to see Yang Cheng finally come to work. Although they could handle a lot of things, they couldn't do it without the director's signature. Yang Chun looked at the pile of documents and frowned. It was a little troublesome that an XIN didn't help him. Fortunately, he didn't really use his eyes to read them. He just pretended to use his divine sense to scan them, and he would naturally understand everything. Therefore, he finished reading all the documents at lightning speed. After correcting a few important documents, Yang Cheng asked, "How's Hui Lin's concert going?" "Don't worry, director. Miss Lin Huey's reputation is too useful now. Not only have we provided suitable venues in first-tier cities in China, but we've even pushed back a contract at the Taipei Arena to let Miss Lin Hui stay for a day. However, the concert in Zhonghai will be next month. Her schedule is too full. We also have to release some English songs this month to expand the European and American markets, Wang Jie said. Yang Cheng touched his forehead. He wasn't sure if Hui Lin could handle it. He didn't have to worry about her body. She had the foundation of internal energy, so she would be fine. He was just worried that she would feel empty if she kept running around alone. It seemed like he had to find time to call her or meet her. Following that, Yang Chen met with a few guests from other companies to discuss about sponsorship issues. Since June was the month of the European Football Championship, Yulei would definitely participate in it as well. Unfortunately, Yang Chen wasn't very passionate about sports. He just went through the motions, although he signed a few small contracts. After all, in Yang Cheng's opinion, these sports were no different from a group of children playing games. Was it just a ball? With a casual kick, as long as the ball was not broken, it would not be difficult for it to fly out of the stadium. When it was almost noon, his phone vibrated. It was Lin Ruoshi calling. After the couple took a nap on top of each other yesterday afternoon, their relationship became much closer. Yang Chun happily picked up the call and said, "Honey, you're missing me so soon. Do you want to lie on my body and take a nap? If you want to sleep, I'll have to take off my clothes before you climb on top of me." Lin Ruoshi blushed shyly on the other end of the phone. She naturally heard the teasing tone in Yang Cheng's words, but because she slept too soundly last night, her saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth and wet Yang Cheng's clothes. She was very embarrassed. I don't want to," Lin Ruoshi hurriedly said. "I want you to go out with me." Yang Cheng was stunned. "Lunch? Well, lunch is secondary. I want to go to a few orphanages, but I'm too busy to move things alone," so Yang Cheng slapped his forehead. Right, today was Children's Day. With Lin Ruoshi's personality, she would definitely give gifts to the children. Without further ado, Yang Cheng agreed and went straight to Yulei International. He went upstairs to Lin Ruoshi's CEO office and knocked on the door. Before Yang Cheng opened the door himself, the door was open from the inside. But the woman who appeared surprised Yang Cheng. Hong Yen. In front of him was a buxom woman wearing a light brown chiffon dress with a black silk belt. Her hair was curled up and she had a beautiful face. It was Zhao Hongyan, whom he hadn't seen for a while. Last time at Zhao Hongyan's house, he thought he wouldn't have a chance to see her again. He didn't expect her to appear in Lin Ruoshi's office. Zhao Hongyan was holding a file bag in her hand. She pursed her lips and smiled. "Director Yang, good afternoon." "You?" Yang Cheng hesitated and said, "Are you here to return the money?" Zhao Hongyan was stunned and then giggled. "I will return the money, but I didn't return it today." At this time, Lin Ruoshi's cold voice came from inside. "Hongyan is my new assistant." "Assistant?" Yang Chen looked at Zhao Hongyan, who had a smug expression, and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Lin Ruoshi was really sharp and accurate. Yang Chun had said before that he had to choose someone whom he trusted as her assistant, but she actually called Zhao Hongyan back. This time, he had nothing to verify and knew everything about her. "What about your family's meatball shop? Is it still open?" Yang Cheng asked curiously. Zhao Hongyan looked back at Lin Ruoshi, who was looking up something on the computer. Seeing that Lin Ruoshi wasn't displeased, she nodded and said, "Well, General Lin invested in our meatball shop. Now we have open branches in 3 shopping malls. Business is good, and we even hired employees. Our family situation has also improved." General Lin said that Wu Yu is going to the United States to get married and have a child, and he hopes that I can be his assistant. Although I don't have much experience, I'm still very happy to be General Lin's assistant. Yang Cheng didn't expect Lin Ruoshi to really invest in the meatball shop. He felt it was funny. It seemed that this woman had reached a paranoid level about glutinous rice balls. However, investing in a few small shops was really nothing for Lin Ruoshi's financial resources. After chatting for a while, Zhao Hongyan went downstairs as she still had to photocopy some documents. Yang Chen couldn't help but look back at this young woman's graceful back. Her hips were swaying, and she was really graceful. He remembered that when he was in the public relations department, he had taken advantage of this woman a lot. It seemed that except for the last level, he had taken advantage of all the other things. Now that he had the opportunity to meet her frequently, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Yang Cheng had to admit that he was really an animal and couldn't be saved. Humph. In the office, Lin Ruoshi let out a cold snort. Obviously, she had seen Yang Cheng's greedy look. Yang Cheng's face immediately turned serious. He coughed a few times and walked to Lin Ruoshi's desk with a smile. "Baby, you're really kind. You treat your employees so well. A kind woman is the most beautiful." Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at him. "Why don't you say that I knew that Xuan Mingyi was using Wu Yu, but I kept it from her? Isn't this a good result? After all, she is his true love." Yang Cheng smiled at Shan Shan. Lin Ruoshi didn't want to talk about that matter anymore. She was just unhappy with Yang Cheng's hypocritical praise. She looked at her watch. It was almost time. She got up and picked up the bag she had prepared. She walked to Yang Cheng's side and held Yang Cheng's arm. She raised her head and said, "Let's go." Yang Cheng swallowed and pointed to the place where Lin Ruoshi was holding. "Are we going to go down like this? What if someone sees us?" Lin Ruoshi smiled slyly. "What's wrong? A wife holding her husband's hand and going out of the company. Who could say anything? Don't worry. If anyone dares to say anything, I will fire him." "No, I didn't mean that." "Then what do you mean?" Lin Ruoshi suddenly showed a hint of resentment. "Don't you want me to be close to you? You're still angry with me, right?" Yang Cheng quickly shook his head. "Absolutely not." "Then let's go. I know you like this, don't you?" Lin Ruoshi didn't hide her pride. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. He finally understood that Lin Ruoshi was deliberately showing off their affection in the company. This kind of thing was bound to be heard by Imo Qianyi and Lu Mingyu. At the same time, many of the beautiful employees of Yulei would avoid him. Sure enough, when Lin Ruoshi intimately held Yang Cheng's hand and took the elevator downstairs, the employees of Yulei who were entering and exiting the elevator all revealed unsteady expressions. Some were envious, some were stunned, and all kinds of things were said without hesitation. In less than half an hour, the entire building would know about the two of them going out intimately. When they reached the underground garage, Lin Ruoshi immediately let go of his arm and glared at Yang Cheng angrily. This was because Yang Cheng was not honest at all. From time to time, he would secretly rub his arm against her chest, causing Lin Ruoshi to almost let out an indecent sound. After all, many sensitive nerve endings were in that area. Yang Cheng pretended that nothing had happened. He looked around and didn't see Lin Ruoshi's Bentley. He asked, "Wife, where's your car?" Lin Ruoshi didn't argue with him. She pointed toward the corner and said, "Over there." It would have been better if Yang Cheng didn't look, but when he did, his eyeballs almost fell out. Chapter 731. He thought that Lin Ruoshi would use her red Bentley to carry some gifts, but this scene was obviously not the case. A brand new white Ford F-350 pickup truck was parked in the corner. Ford's F-Series pickup truck was the representative model of the American tough guy spirit, with high horsepower, hard aluminum alloy decoration, and square headlights. It could be seen everywhere in the United States, and everyone had their own preferences for home and farm use. But it was very rare in Huaxia, because this kind of car generally had a displacement of more than 5.0, and it was only imported, and the lowest price was about 1 million. The back of the pickup truck was filled with at least dozens of boxes of items. This woman, to send warmth on Children's Day, actually planned to drive a truck? Lin Ruoshi was a little embarrassed. She bit her lips and said softly, "It wasn't convenient when I was alone in the past. Now that you're accompanying me, I can use the truck. I've already asked the security guards to bring the truck out of the garage for me. I've even bought a gift for it. I don't know how to drive a big car, so you have to be the driver." "It doesn't matter." Yang Cheng recovered and exhaled. "I used to drive this kind of car a lot, but it is the first time in the city." Lin Ruoshi hurriedly said, "Actually, if you like, I still have a Dodge Ram and a Nissan Titan in my garage. They're all new imported pickup trucks. I can give them to you to drive. You have been driving that BMW for a year." Who has nothing to do with driving a pickup truck to work. Yang Chung rolled his eyes, but still took the keys from Lin Ruoshi and walked to the truck. Lin Ruoshi muttered a few words to the man's back. He was kind enough to give her a car, but why did he roll his eyes at her? The engine roared, and the two quickly left the parking lot. According to Lin Ruoshi's instructions, they still ate lunch before going to the orphanage. What do you want to eat? Yang Chung asked casually. Lin Ruoshi touched her chin and thought for a moment. Let's eat something simple. It is a waste of time to wait too long to order. Then find a small restaurant? Lin Ruoshi frowned. Can we find a cleaner place? When the woman thought of a small restaurant, she thought of the crayfish restaurant that she ate with Yang Chung before. That dirty and greasy taste was not pleasant. Yang Chung shrugged. Then say it. I will sell myself to you today. Then say it. I will sell myself to you today. Lin Ruoshi snorted and thought for a while. She was a little hesitant. She rubbed her hands on the hem of her dress and whispered, "Why don't we go to my new glutinous rice ball chain store? I haven't checked it out yet." As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Ruoshi's face instantly turned red. She had actually been thinking about it for a few days, but she just couldn't bring herself to go eat it alone. After all, she was the big boss of an investment company, so she had to have some dignity. It would be weird to go and buy meatballs to eat alone. It was rare for someone to accompany her, and she immediately wanted to eat the meatballs, not caring that it was only lunch. Yang Chung seemed to understand something, and he nodded. "All right, I am also very curious about that brand of glutinous rice meatball shop." As soon as Yang Chung agreed, Lin Ruoshi immediately smiled, and she nodded. Yang Chung saw this, and he sighed in his heart. One easily satisfied girl. He reckoned that her heart could only be stuffed with a glutinous rice meatball. At the same time, because of the small restaurant, Yang Chung remembered that he should find time to go to sister-in-law Xiang's Sichuan restaurant to meet Ma Guifang. Mo Qian's matter could not be delayed for too long. It would be torture for both of them. Of course, this matter could not be shown in front of Lin Ruoshi. Lin Ruoshi invested in a total of 3 branches, and they all used the Zhao's glutinous rice meatball signboard. After all, this glutinous rice meatball shop was quite famous in Zhonghai. However, Lin Ruoshi also specially got someone to design the shop's logo, which was a pink pig head glutinous rice meatball. It was extremely cute, and it would definitely be attractive to young girls. And the 3 branches were directly opened in the multi-purpose department stores under Lin Ruoshi. Just in Zhonghai alone, Lin Ruoshi owned no less than 10 shopping malls. However, she had always been low-key, and she did not attend many of them. So many people did not know that the boss behind these large department stores was actually the same person. After driving for about half an hour, the two of them arrived at the relatively close Zhonghai International Trade Tower. This tower's bottom 10 floors were all shops, restaurants, leisure and entertainment centers, and further up were the clubhouse and office floors. When they walked into the first floor of the tower, Yang Chung suddenly asked curiously, "Ruoshi, did you Lei's asset declaration include your department stores?" "Of course not," Lin Ruoshi said lightly. "These are all my own assets, and I originally bought them from someone else. There is no need to forcibly include them in the company." Yang Chen opened his mouth and said with a smile, "In that case, even if Lei goes bankrupt, your identity as a little rich lady will not change." Lin Ruoshi glanced at Yang Chung with a smug expression. "It's not your first day knowing me. Do you think that I am the kind of person who does not leave a way out for myself?" Yang Chung nodded in agreement. Indeed, with Lin Ruoshi's calculations, it was impossible for her to put all her eggs in one basket. It would be strange if she didn't have a backup plan. Actually, when Grandma handed Lei to me, these department stores were not mine yet. But I have been buying shares from others for the past few years and have monopolized these buildings. Although it sometimes causes the company to be short of funds, I have absolute control of Lei, so no one could say anything about me," Lin Ruoshi said. Yang Chung smiled. No wonder Lin Ruoshi always kept her shares at around 90%. He asked in puzzlement, "Why are you buying so many buildings? Do you want to be a landlady?" Lin Ruoshi's eyes lit up. "I'm still far from it. My goal is to buy the most prosperous commercial street in Zhonghai and connect them together. As long as I walk by, It will be my building. I have been working towards this goal. Yang Chen's face stiffened. He smiled sheepishly. Don't tell me this is your dream? It is. Lin Ruoshi was overjoyed and nodded. Actually, I think it is a very happy thing to be a real estate magnate in the city. Think about it. When the whole street is mine, I can have whatever brand I want. I can move all the things I like here, and the things I don't like will be moved away. When I go to the store, I can take whatever I want as long as it is charged to the rent. The whole street will become my playground. Yang Cheng touched his face and muttered, Your dream is not cute at all. As they spoke, the two had arrived at the Zhao's meatball shop with a pink glutinous rice and pig's head sign. What made Yang Cheng a little dumbfounded was that there was a long queue outside this meatball shop. Life was unusually lively. 3 or 4 hired employees were busy collecting fees and packaging, while a few apprentices were busy making fresh meatballs. Looking at the meatballs on sale, although they were not as exquisite as the ones made by Elder Zhao, they had more of the creativity of young people. There was a variety of styles, and it was easy to attract the interest of women and children. What made Yang Cheng even more dumbfounded was that the boxes containing the meatballs were printed with the cartoon Hello Kitty. The packaging was all pink, the same color as the one in Lin Ruoshi's room. Looking at the 2 large TV screens on both sides of the shop, they were playing the latest 2 popular Korean dramas. Although there was no sound, it still attracted many customers to stop and watch. Yang Cheng slapped his forehead. Wasn't this the idea he had casually mentioned to Lin Ruoshi? This woman really did it? Looking at the side, Lin Ruoshi's bright eyes were already full of twinkling stars when she saw the meatball shop she had planned. She raised her head and stared at the Korean dramas on the TV screen, completely forgetting the purpose of coming here and immersing herself in it. Yang Cheng coughed a few times and pulled Lin Ruoshi back from her infatuated state. He asked, I'll go buy it for you. What flavor do you want? Lin Ruoshi realized that she had embarrassed herself again, so she looked at the TV a few more times reluctantly and said softly, I want any flavor. Yang Cheng was stunned. There were at least 20 to 30 flavors in the shop, and each meatball was the size of a tennis ball. He frowned and said, There's so much. Can you finish it? Lin Ruoshi's head was already so low that her chin could touch her chest. She stammered, I want to finish it and take it home. You buy your own? You're not allowed to share it with me. Chapter 732. The glutinous rice ball feast made Lin Ruoshi's cheeks flush red, and she felt refreshed. She was in an extremely good mood, especially since she was able to sit on a chair outside the shop and watch Korean dramas while eating. If it weren't for the gifts, Yang Cheng suspected that Lin Ruoshi could have done this until the evening. Seeing the 7 solid glutinous rice balls go into the woman's belly, Yang Cheng wondered how she put them in, but he didn't dare to disturb his wife's elegant mood. He helped her wrap up the remaining glutinous rice balls and drove out of the building, continuing to drive to the orphanage. Of course, such a large number of gifts wouldn't just be given to one orphanage. They went to 3 orphanages in a row, all located in the suburbs of Zhonghai. After getting out of the car, Lin Ruoshi greeted the children intimately, played some simple games, and played together. Obviously, Yang Cheng was the laborer, moving the small toys and snacks in the boxes into the yard. As for the work of distributing the gifts to the children, it was done by the aunt of the orphanage and Lin Ruoshi, because the children didn't like Yang Cheng and didn't care about this ordinary-looking uncle at all. Yang Cheng also wanted to hug those children like Lin Ruoshi, at least to show his Iron Man's tenderness. Not to mention the girls, even the boys stayed far away for fear of being taken advantage of by this uncle. Seeing that Yang Cheng was embarrassed, the staff of the orphanage and Lin Ruoshi all laughed happily. Although Yang Cheng was depressed, seeing that Lin Ruoshi smiled more than ever, he didn't care. Unfortunately, if he wanted to have children, he would have to find a way to improve the physique of his women for a long time. Otherwise, he could really have children. Not only did Lin Ruoshi love children, but Guo and Mother Wang were also anxious for a long time. The last orphanage was New Hope Orphanage, which was built by Guo and Lin Ruoshi most often. Coming to the yard, The children were playing eagle catches chicks noisily. Seeing Lin Ruashi appear, they surrounded her like a tide and kept shouting sweetly around Lin Ruashi. Lin Ruashi was very energetic when playing with the children. She didn't know fatigue and immediately became the mother hen for the children. After Yang Chung was busy moving the last few boxes of gifts to the yard, Director Cha walked over with a smile and said, "Sorry to trouble you. All of us here are women, and we don't have much strength." Seeing Director Cha was considered an old acquaintance. Jinxiu was also brought up by this old woman, so Yang Chung was naturally very respectful towards her. "It's nothing. I can only do some manual labor. The children don't like me." Yang Chung laughed at himself and asked, "Has my mother been here?" Director Cha knew that Yang Chung and Lin Ruashi were Guo Xiuhua's son and daughter-in-law. She smiled and nodded. "She has been here for a long time. Madame Guo is the busiest during these days." She didn't stay for long and immediately went to another orphanage. She also told me that Jinxiu is going to take her college entrance examination and can only come back after that. She asked me not to blame her. Madame Guo is such a careful person. Yang Chung nodded with some emotion. Just when he was about to find a place to rest and wait for Lin Ruashi to go home together, he saw a small figure standing at the entrance of the orphanage from the corner of his eye. It was a girl about 3 or 4 years old wearing a light blue polka-dot white dress that revealed her fair and round legs. She wore red leather sandals and had a head of short black hair that was cut into a round mushroom hairstyle. In front of her was a flat fringe that accentuated her fair and delicate little face, making her look especially delicate and lovely. Her big, watery eyes were like clear pools of water without any impurities. The little girl leaned against the door. Her expression didn't show the slightest bit of childishness that a child should have. Her gaze fell on Lin Ruashi, who was among the children from afar. In the eyes of the child, which should have been bright and innocent, there was a hint of complicated contemplation. Yang Chung narrowed his eyes. He felt that there was something strange about this little girl, but he couldn't put his finger on it. However, Yang Chung was sure that he had a good impression of this little girl. It wasn't because she looked like a porcelain doll that was carved from jade, but because it was an indescribable feeling. "Principal Cha, is that child also from this orphanage?" Yang Chung asked the old man beside him. Principal Cha looked around, and a trace of love flashed in her eyes. "Yo, whose child is this? She looks so pretty, just like a doll that was drawn out. Of course, she's not from our orphanage. Just look at the way she's dressed. You can tell that she's from a rich family. Maybe her parents happened to be passing by with her, and she heard the cry of a child, so she came over to take a look." Yang Chung nodded. Just as he was about to pick up some snacks and walk over to talk to the little girl, he saw a delicate woman who looked like a nanny run to the little girl's side. She held the little girl's hand with a look of concern, as if she was trying to persuade her about something. Then, she took the little girl away. Even before she left, the little girl didn't forget to look back at Lin Ruashi with a hint of reluctance. It seems that the child really likes Ruashi. That's right, Ruashi has always been very popular with children, Principal Cha said with a smile. She had also noticed this, and she laughed. Yang Chung pursed his lips and chuckled. In his heart, he also thought that this was the case. No matter how he guessed, it was impossible for such a little girl to have any special feelings for Lin Ruashi. Perhaps he was indeed thinking too much. This little episode was quickly forgotten by Yang Chung. He chatted with Principal Cha for a while, and time passed just like that. In a quiet tea house not far from the orphanage, the elf-like little girl was running up the slightly old wooden stairs step by step with her small feet. "Miss Lon Lon, be careful, don't fall." "Oh, my little grandit." The nanny followed behind anxiously, for fear that the little girl would fall and hurt herself. The little girl's fluffy dress fluttered lightly, and she ran up the stairs agilely. She didn't have the slightest intention of falling, nor did she care about the worried nanny following behind her. She silently ran to a table near the balcony of the tea house. Using both her hands and feet, she climbed onto a chair, took a cup of cold tea like an adult, aimed it at her pink little mouth, and gulped it down. Opposite the little girl was a handsome, mature man with a leisurely temperament. He was wearing a striped shirt with a string of Buddhist beads hanging on one hand and a folding fan in the other. He smiled lovingly as he watched the little girl finish drinking the tea and warmly said, "Lon Lon, you didn't bully other children, did you?" The little girl called Lon Lon put down the teacup and said to the man with an expressionless face, "Grandpa, there's an auntie who looks like my mother." The little girl's words were without the slightest emotion, but her voice was like an aureole. If there was an outsider who heard the little girl calling this middle-aged man Grandpa, they would definitely sigh at this man's good maintenance skills. After all, this man looked like he was in his early 30s. The man turned his head and looked at the nanny, who was panting and chasing after him, obviously asking what was going on. The nanny smiled bitterly and said, "Master, Miss Lon Lon saw a very beautiful lady playing with the children in the orphanage, and she felt that the lady looked like her mother." After listening to that, the man was silent for a while, closed his folding fan, and said earnestly, "Lon Lon, Grandpa knows that you miss your mother very much. But Grandpa has said many times that your mother has gone to a faraway place, and she won't be coming back. Grandpa will wait for the right time to bring you to see your father. At that time, you'll have a father who loves you, and a new mother. Lon Lon has a mother. Mother will not abandon Lon Lon." The little girl stubbornly opened her watery eyes wide and said unhappily. The man's words stopped, and he lightly sighed. He reached out his hand and stroked the girl's soft hair. Okay. Lamlin's mother will come back. Grandpa won't talk nonsense." Only then did Lon Lon pout her mouth, forgiving him. Without smiling, she reached out her chubby little hand and took a piece of mung bean cake from the table. She opened her small mouth and began to eat quietly. Looking at the little girl's round face and the way she ate with relish, a trace of love flashed through the man's eyes, and he softly asked, "Lon Lon, we will be settling in Zhonghai in the future. Does Lon Lon like it here?" Lon Lon blinked her eyes and asked softly, "Grandpa said he's bringing me to see Dad. Now that we're not leaving, does that mean Dad is here? Then why don't you bring Lon Lon to see Father now?" The girl tilted her little head and asked puzzledly, "Then why don't you bring me to see Daddy now?" The little girl tilted her head and asked in confusion. The man was a little distressed, and he took the fan and knocked on his head. "Lon Lon, Grandpa must have a reason for the good of Lon Lon and also for the good of Father. In a few days, you will go and see Father, okay?" Lon Lon silently looked at the man for a while, and then she meekly nodded. Looking at the obedient and sensible child, the nanny couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat, and she wiped away her tears. More than half an hour later, Yang Chung and Lin Ruoshi said goodbye to President Cha. Before they knew it, the afternoon had passed. After all, there were people waiting for dinner at home, and it wasn't good to delay for too long. Yang Chung helped Lin Ruoshi open the car door, and in a gentlemanly manner, let her get in first, and then walked to the driver's door. Just as he was about to get in the car, his heart slightly moved, as if he had sensed something. Yang Chung raised his head and looked at the street in the distance, where the tea house was located, and he frowned. "What's wrong? Do you know anyone?" Lin Ruoshi asked curiously in the car. Coming back to his senses, Yang Cheng's expression changed, and he relaxed and said, "Nothing. I deliberately pretended to be deep." Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at him. "Hurry up and go back. Don't let Mom and the others wait too long." Yang Cheng teased. "Just say it. Can't you just say that you are in a hurry to eat the leftover glutinous rice balls?" This time, Lin Ruoshi didn't reply. She turned her head and looked out of the window, as if she didn't care, but the burning red ears betrayed her thoughts.